Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our September 2nd, to the Redwoods Board of Trustees meeting. We're meeting today at our Klamath Trinity campus. I want to thank everyone from this campus for hosting the meeting. It's always such a delight to come in here. So thank you. And we just all had a wonderful lunch. So thank you very much. Please join me in saluting our flag to honor those who serve the country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Start our meeting with our land acknowledgement on agenda 1.3. We acknowledge that the College of the Redwoods is located on the unceded territory of the Wiyot, Hoopa, Karuk, Matoli, Talawa, Wailaki, and Yurok people, where they have resided from time immemorial. We encourage all to gain a deeper understanding of their history and thriving culture. As an expression of our gratitude, we are genuinely committed to developing trusting, reciprocal, and long-lasting partnerships with the Wiyot people, as well as all of our neighboring tribes. So this would be terribly appropriate since we're right out here, which of course we do our land acknowledgement at all of our meetings. This moves us to agenda item 1.4, public hearing for our final budget. In accordance with the California Code of Regulations, the board must hold a public hearing and adopt the final budget after making it available for public inspection for at least 3 days prior. It's just an information matter, right?
It is.
You were now informed. Taking us to general public comments. There are none. There are general public comments. Thank you very much. Moving us to agenda item 3, member comments. My left table. Yes, Trustee Andrade.
On August 14th, I attended the Foundation's athletic fundraiser. Always impressed by the students and how friendly they are and welcoming. And I'm not sure if this was new, but the transportation from the parking lot up.
Oh, the little cart?
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought that was really a nice addition that, I noticed a lot of people taking advantage of that. On August 19th, I listened to the government relations webinar. And a few takeaways, AB 90 that has to do with the overnight parking for students. It sounds like they're still trying to get that going through, even though the league opposes it. And also the AB 1400 for the bachelor's degree for nursing. But we're still trying to work on that. And the budget was no surprise. The next 3 years will be tough, but more revenue said than anticipated. More from personal income tax, withholding, and federal disaster relief funds. Looked more positive, but not amazing is how it was phrased. And sounds like the state will be raising their reserve cap. And then they did talk about TRIO, that the president had a zero budget for it, but the Senate had it fully funded, and then they'll see what's going to happen in the House. Let's see. Also on August 22nd, I attended Convocation and the Evening Mixer. And there was an AI presentation that was very interesting and a little scary in some respects. The mixer seems like it's become quite the social event. I think everybody enjoys it, and it was just really nice to be there and, kick off the school year.
Yes, Trustee Higgins.
Thank you. August the 6th, that's right after our last board meeting, I turned into the Chancellor's office this webinar. And they did an overview of the economic impact of the value of inequality, well, They, in fact, later on, an email came out with their publication about that economic impact, but they talked about, how important the colleges are to all of our communities and the benefit. They also interviewed the superintendent president from Sierra College, Willie Duncan. He talked about the partnerships that he's developed with some businesses in their community. The example he gave was Bosch Semiconductors, that has given them, millions of dollars to help train potential employees for them. And then they had another interview with the president, Gilbert Contreras, and he was from Valley College, which is part of the Riverside School District. And they talked about all their special funding that they have going on, and the fact that they're trying to, they're working on a shorter time to goal focus. So they're creating certificate programs that can be completed in shorter amount of times. And they're really excited about a new program that they have in aviation. And I think that they're so close to the Ontario airport, they're working really closely with the aviation community and developing programs there. They also have some programs on cybersecurity and areas that are really, create employable opportunities for the students in their area. On the 14th of August, I went to the sports auction, and that's always really enjoyable, and certainly commend Marty Pueblo and his team and all the work and energy that they put into making that so successful. And then on the 19th, I did the government relations webinar, which we've already reported on, and I did tune into the comment about the deficit that both the LAO and the LAO is the legislative bandwidth office, as well as the Department of Finance, are both predicting pretty serious deficits. Almost 20% in the 27-28 school year. But on the same day, they're raising the reserve cap so that they plan to have a 25% reserve by 2030 and go up to 50% in 2050. I don't think I'll be around.
I don't think they're actually going to succeed in that.
But yeah, it was interesting the way they're trying to build their reserves so that they have something, a little room when there is a decline in the economy. So it's always such a great webinar. I look forward to watching it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, I'm sorry.
So I went to the sports auction as well, and Marty did a great job. I'm proud to report that I haven't touched a single bottle of the case of tequila I bought. It's still in the. But the one thing that concerned me about the auction wasn't Marty, but it was somewhat a signal of our economy in my mind of how relatively inexpensive things went. And especially one item that I bought that I bid on last year, and I bought it this year at half the price that it went for last year. And even though they made incredible money,
Yeah.
but I just thought that was somewhat a sign of our economy in Humboldt County. Yeah, just my take on it. But what a fun evening as well. And then went to convocation as well. And as my fellow trustee said, the AI was absolutely an incredible presentation. She did one where they did, they'll make music, AI will make music, and she did the College of the Redwoods. And it was a song all about College of the Redwoods. And it was, I mean, the room was I'm not speaking, but was quiet listening to that. And then I did go to the mixer as well. And it's always great to chat with everybody and talk to everybody. And a lot of our camp down north was heavily represented there, which I don't remember happening before. So it was really a great event.
I attended the foundation fundraiser as well, and the only thing to add is I also went to the foundation meeting on August 20th, I think it was. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna,
You were gonna, right?
well, I was
Yeah.
going to point out that you've also attended it. I'll speak unless there's anyone else who cares to speak. I did pretty much what many of you have already done. I attended the fundraiser. I will say that at least at our foundation board meeting, Maureen did note that it was the best fundraiser they had, even though, as trustee Dorn pointed out, maybe some of the items didn't go for as high as they did previous years. I think it was largely owing to the fact that the team who put it together, including the students, just had collected so many things for auction that it really, yeah. So the figures that we got at the foundation meeting, approximately $307,000, which is what they raised with $41,000 in terms of expenses. So that was huge. Government relations webinar, what I found kind of interesting, well, it's always interesting, but they spent a little bit of time talking about redistricting and the fact that it will be on our ballot, possibly, regarding redistricting, as I'm sure many of you are well aware, the redistricting fight going on, as to whether or not we should essentially respond to what happened to Texas to ensure that, try to balance out members of Congress, so Texas takes away 5, we're gonna have 5. It's, some say it's a race to the bottom, but it's what we're doing these days. The only reason that they spent some time on it was really to talk about the districts that might be impacted by it. And there were 3 districts that could be impacted by it. Our district would not be impacted. Our district would grow and it would go as far east as Reading, but it wouldn't change our representative. So that was, I found that interesting. Something else at the foundation meeting that I found particularly interesting was a presentation that was made by a man from Crescent City, Gustav Squay. Squez, and biology professor Karen Rice. They were reporting on this 3D printing lab that they have up in Crescent City that I just was fascinated by. I mean, they make these incredible objects out of rolls of plastic. And one thing that Karen Rice talked about. I'm looking at you, are you from? No, okay, I thought, God, you know Karen, are you? It is Louise. Karen Rice takes students on field trips out over 299 and up into the hills. And she has a blind student who typically really cannot appreciate the topography, which is what they're studying when they go on these field trips. So she had the lab create these topographical maps, obviously much bigger than this, so that the blind student could feel the topography as they drove up 299. And apparently it made all the difference to the student in terms of her understanding as to what the lesson is trying to teach the students. We all got one of these. I told kids to be blind to Christmas tree, but it was just fascinating to me. And they make this lab available to everyone in the community. You can just go in and make all these doodads. There's probably a better word for it, but they make products, they make things like nuts and bolts and such that they need in the welding lab. They make giveaway things like coasters. So I just found that fascinating, and it's funded by the Presidential Innovation Grant. Thank you, President Klamer. So that was, for me, one of the highlights of the foundation meeting. And yes, yeah,
I don't know if I can ask the question, but back to you talking about redistricting.
yeah,
And the seminar had it going over to Reading.
Yeah.
How would our College of the Redwoods districts change? Not,
yeah, we're just talking, in terms of the
Okay.
congressperson who would represent our district.
okay,
And our district, if redistricting goes through as envisioned by the map that Governor Newsom has put forward, then our district would expand as far east as Reading. So the
Congressional,
folks over there,
just congressional, not,
just
yeah,
congressional.
okay, well, that's, I couldn't quite get that.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it was probably, no, it was me.
No. And the last thing, I just wanted to mention that we all went to our workshop on August 23rd. And I want to thank all those who were involved in putting together that workshop. We had what I thought was a really interesting presentation from the Vice Chancellor, whatever his name was. You probably remember.
James Todd.
James Todd, on the vision for the community college system. And as many of those reports as I've read over the last couple of years, his presentation was by far the best. So thank you all for making that happen. I think you were the one, Trustee Doran, who first suggested that we have that presentation, so thank you for that excellent suggestion.
And what was interesting about that presentation is they really updated the plan. And I think in my mind downsized it. Goals, yeah, excuse me, yeah, from the presentation that I heard by the chancellor. So, and to tell you quite nicely, his presentation is much better.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's all I have. That takes us to agenda item 3.2, board committee reports. Looking to my right first, then we're looking at you that you would have something to say.
So, the president eval committee continues to meet, not evaluating the president anymore. But, we have been working on, you will see the first read of it in 5.3 on the presidential selection. And I gotta tell you, well, I'll wait till we talk about it. So that's what the committee's been doing.
Yeah, the committee, and you might want to say who's on the committee.
Who's on the committee? President Mullery and Vice President, Kevin Matthews.
So, and Richard has been doing, as chair of the committee, Trustee Dorn has done an excellent job keeping us moving. So we've had several meetings and we'll talk about it more when we get to that agenda item. Any other board committee reports? Seeing none, that takes me to the status of board of trustee requests. Agenda item 3.3. You all satisfied with how that is moving along? Okay, it's just something we look at just to make to remind us as to what we're asking the president or to do. Okay. Oh, I have this foundation agenda.
So,
Okay, it takes us to consent items. Any board member may remove an item from the consent calendar and place it under discussion. Items removed will be voted on separately as part of any agenda item. Action, a trustee can request that this type of item be included in the next consent calendar. Is there any trustee that would like to remove the consent calendar action item? Trustee Dorn?
4.3 and 4.4.
4.3 and 4.4. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will ask for a vote of approval on agenda items for.
I move to approve.
I'm just gonna enumerate them. 4.1, 4.2, 4.5, 4.6, and 4.7. And I believe trustee Biggin is moving to approve. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving the agenda items I just enumerated, please say aye.
Aye.
Objections, they are approved.
Did anyone abstain for the record?
Not on the ones we just
Oh,
approved.
that's true, okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
But thank you. It's always good to check on me.
Just, and on myself, but thank you.
4.3, trustee Dorn.
So now, if, I just didn't know if there was a way that, a quick explanation of the new software for people administration, how that works, and what the purpose is with, Severin Intermediate Holding LLC, AKA People Admin from Folsom, California. And if you don't know, that's fine. I was just curious what that did.
What it does.
Right. I
I'm
mean,
trying
does
to
it
find
track?
out how many items.
I know, it. 6 down from the top. For 48,000.
For about 49,000.
Yeah,
This is for human resources. So
okay,
it makes, there are processes for applications for HR.
Okay.
Much more effective and efficient.
And then it says, so you just, so it's just for the applying, people that apply for jobs after college, that
Correct.
tracks them, not after the fact.
Yes. Just because it's easier for us to process and not have it so labor intensive, so we can be more efficient.
Okay. Anybody else has a question for approval?
4.3.
3.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Objections, 4.3 is approved. Trustee Doran, 4.4.
I need to abstain from voting on this.
You're recusing yourself.
Recuse.
Are there any other questions about agenda item 4.4? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving and ratifying personnel actions, please say aye.
Aye.
No objections, we have one recusal for the record.
Do you need a motion on
We have a motion? I'm sorry. Did I miss that?
If not, I move.
And I'll second.
Okay. Thank you.
He gave us his question, but I don't know that we put it on the table to vote on it. Not yet, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Yeah.
I guess we should vote again then.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear, all those in favor of approving 4.4, please say aye.
Aye.
Objections, and you have one recusal. Thank you very much. That takes us to action items. We are looking at approving the College and Career Access Pathways Partnerships, otherwise known as CCP, agreements with a variety of districts, including Ferndale Unified School District, Fortuna Union High School District, Humboldt County Office of Education, NHUH, HSD, SHJUSD. Oh, gosh, I hate acronyms. They're just nonsensical. I mean, I know Northern Humboldt Union High School District.
Southern.
And Southern Humboldt, J, whatever J is. Joint. Alder Grove Charter School, this is why I hate acronyms. Alder Grove Charter School, Eureka City School District, Del Norte Unified School District, and Del Norte County Office of Education. All of these are listed in your packet. We need, first of all, a motion to approve.
I move for approval.
Need a second. President Flamer, is there anything you'd like to say about this group?
Yes, thank you. This is, if you remember, and you may not remember, is that the state changed the law last year to allow to actually stipulate that if a community college is asked to provide a dual enrollment course, and we do not respond within a set amount of time, then that school district is allowed to reach out to other community colleges to offer dual enrollment courses in our territory. And so I want to thank both Vice President Morse as well as the Senate for meeting last week prior to the semester beginning to make sure that our CCAPs are up to date and clear. And I can't wait for the pathways to be identified through the Senate.
This was a topic at our retreat in terms of vision for the community college district. Would you like to just touch on that, the importance of it?
If you remember, Chancellor Sonia talked about the need to offer dual enrollment down to the 9th grade. And there was some conversation about exactly what that means and what courses they would make. So the state is putting major emphasis on putting dual enrollment at the high school. Not because they want an avenue or vehicle for high achieving students to get college credit, although that's a piece of it. It's how do we keep students who are not college bound engaged in the educational system? So that's why we're trying to reach down to 9th grade. And there is more apportionment for dual enrollment than other categories. I know you don't like acronyms.
Oh, no.
Student-centered funding form.
Oh, I got that.
And so we are putting major emphasis on it.
Yeah, well, there was some discussion at our retreat regarding the advisability of having dual enrollment at the 9th grade level. Because of course there is a distinction between dual enrollment and advanced placement.
Very much.
And sometimes there's some confusion about that. But what we'd be looking at is offering college courses in the high schools to ninth graders.
And above, I guess.
And above.
Absolutely, down to my favorite.
And it was an interesting conversation. Thank you for, I thought it was useful just to elaborate on it because it's really important in terms of the Chancellor's Office vision. Any further, yes, trustee Biggins.
My concern is if there's one high school district that's missing from this list, that's in our district, and that's the Plymouth Trinity Joint High School District. So my hope is that in the future, we will look at moving forward and finding out how we can create one of these agreements with the district too.
We did discuss that at the retreat, as I recall. I guess one of the issues is just finding the faculty who have the qualifications.
I think there probably are some faculty, but it'll just maybe take a little extra research. There's new administration and new faculty, so it's worth exploring.
Oh,
I just wanna get that in the mix, because I don't know
Good.
if it's a minute on the workshop.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of approving these CCAPs as listed, please say aye. Objections, they all are approved. Thank you very much. And thank you for the team for putting all this together. This is not an easy task. All right, we're looking at approving our 2025-26 final budget. This is an action item.
I'm for approval.
This will be reported to the State Chancellor's Office by October 10th. With a date in accordance with the State Chancellor's Office instructions. We have one motion to approve.
Second.
President Flame, would you like to elaborate on this at all?
Yes, however, I'm gonna hand them off to Vice President Morrison, who does an excellent job walking through each page and hitting all the high points.
I do notice that it's categorized as a consent calendar.
Oh, that was a mistake then. It should be an action item.
Okay,
Thank you for noticing that. Still getting used to the new documentation with diligent.
so this is an action item. Got it. Yeah.
Julie, can you go ahead and open the 2025-2026 final budget with pages PDF, please? And then for those following along on your own, I'm gonna have Julie jump right to PDF page 9, or it's report page 1. And this is just a good overview of the different assumptions that are put into both the revenues and expenditures for the budget. There hasn't been a lot of changes since the tentative budget. We have been continuing to update our enrollment targets. So following the enrollment trajectories that have been put out by our department on a weekly basis, we found that we could increase our prior year, our target could be an increase of 3% to 5%, depending on the enrollment or FTS category. So we have for credit, incarcerated credit, and this isn't on this page, I apologize. But for our credit, incarcerated credit, and special admin credit, we have an increase of 3% over the prior year. And then for the non-credit and the CDCP, we have an increase of 5% over the prior year. And so the overall target for next year for our enrollment is 3,961 FTES. That is an increase from 3,900, I think it was 28 from the tentative budget, which equates to about $100,000 increase, just because of the different categories. Some went up and some went down when we were adjusting our targets. So all in all, as I've explained before, for the state apportionment dollars coming to the district from the state, there are 3 different calculations. There is the SCIF, or the Student Centered Funding Formula. That is the one that factors in your enrollment, your supplemental, and your student success counts. We also have the hold harmless, which is our prior year, or this year it's our prior year. But for our hold harmless, our new floor is our 24-25 total computational revenue. So that's why we were working really hard to maximize our revenue last year, because that's our new hold harmless floor moving forward. And as our prior hold harmless provision included COLA pass-through automatically, this one does not. And then we also have for the third calculation, the prior year SCIF plus COLA. In those three, the student-centered funding formula is still most favorable for the district. So right now, we're looking at about 2.7 million coming in for our state apportionment. And then below that, you'll see some of our past enrollment actuals and then our future enrollment targets, so out through 2027-28. For our expenditures, the major differences between the tentative and the final budget is we continue to update the position inventory. And we always are working to clean that up or adding new positions, or if we have replacements that are not approved, we make sure to remove them. We also have, at this point in time, most of our temp requests that are gonna come in for the year. So we have those numbers more finalized in the final budget. And then, of course, the benefits follow suit. We also had to increase discretionary budget a little because we did have some supplemental budget requests come in after the tentative budget, which is where we set the discretionary for the different departments. So, all in all, at the end of the day, I'll have Julie then jump next to PDF page 10 or page 2.
I had a question about page 2, and I think you sort of answered it.
Okay.
Or had two questions. When at the heading of the title was adopted budget. And so that, because the books haven't been closed yet, but what's there's not that much difference right now between adopted and what the final is, or do you gonna be doing a lot of transfers in and out?
We won't be making any to the 24-25 budget, but what we will be finally putting in are the actuals. So
Okay,
these are still what we're anticipating. It's not the actuals that we've actualized.
so, I mean, because that was what I just saw that and I was wondering how, so you don't really know how much different it will be.
Not completely. We should be close.
Okay, that's what I suspected. And the other question I had, which I think I know the answer to, because I probably asked it before, was in the other state budget, the difference from, the adopted budget 24-25 of 4.3 to the final budget of 1.8. That was because there was one-time revenue in the 24-25?
In 24-25, we received some prior year revenue that we
Okay.
weren't expecting to,
That's
was
right.
because of deficits.
Yeah, thank you.
May I clarify a few things?
Absolutely.
First thing is, Trustee Dorn just made a connection between the audit as well as then our adopted budget packages. Based on the past, the audit sometimes identifies extra revenue that we did not actually count. So as we develop a budget, we're very, very conservative. And so we always try to budget downward. Right, and so at the end of the year, we sometimes have enough or more than we figured. And that again shows you the art of budgeting and not the science of it. So I think this is our best conservative analysis of what we say. And if you go up to the FTS targets, you'll see the 24-25 was 38.43, which is an increase from where we were in 2019. Again, our goal was to get 2019 level. And we should, I'm awfully confident, if we use that word. Actually,
That's my
extremely confident that we will surpass the 25-26 target as well. Which puts us in a better position to capture increase in enrollment.
Trustee Rice and then trustee Dorn.
So the difference between the 24-25 budget and 24-25 actual for purposes of the current budget we're looking at, really, it's only gonna be the beginning fund balance that hopefully will go up if we identify from what's predicted, right?
Which
It's just
always
that-
changes on the fund balance, yes.
Okay.
Trustee Dorn.
And you went to page 10, that's so I have a question on page 3. But first, I wanted to say you guys did an incredible job and an incredible explanation this year. I really appreciate the time you all took to do that. I mean, I really was extremely impressed with the quality of what you guys produced and did. So on page 3, I'm very curious about the property taxes secured. And that for this budget, you're going down 1.8%. I'm just curious, how do you come up with that number? I mean,
Right, for the more-
like Jack said, somebody looks at foreclosures in the paper, but I'm just curious, how do you get that number?
That's a good question, Vice President Marshall.
Sometime, well, and I'll kind of, I'm looking at on that page, the adopted budget for 24-25 and the final budget. And the unsecured, it's not that we think it's gonna be zero, it's just that it's actually subsumed in secured, we just didn't break it out. But we really just try to follow, and I think we've had this
Yeah,
this
every year
conversation
we have.
before.
Yeah.
But this was a little bit different, and it was, we try to follow what the state is predicting. And it seems that year over year, that they predict our property taxes are gonna be higher than they actually come in as. So we try to chew that up, and so in 25-26, that 13.2 million is just a reflection of the fact that we're trying to be kind of between where the state says we're gonna be and where we think we're gonna be. And at the end of the day, though, the state apportionment is not, it doesn't change. It just depends on the different sources getting you to that 42.7 million.
Well, because there should be an automatic increase of 1.1%. So this would be a deficit of 2.9%. Because our taxes, all property taxes go up 1.1%. Right?
Again,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Again, yeah, we didn't have a true good starting point. So like I said,
Okay.
it's trying to find that sweet spot between,
Right.
yeah.
Again, it's the best guess based on what the state is assuming they have.
Right. No, I was just curious. Thank you very much.
Unless you take it from one.
Part of our budgeting, yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So it's
they-
actually a
the state
2.9.
also raised that.
It's minus 2.9.
And trustee Rice,
I'm sorry.
And no, I know you already explained it to me once, but it doesn't really matter, because it's just the total amount of revenue will
Source.
change, it's just which source it comes from,
Source
so,
changes, right.
okay.
So the one thing with that is if our property taxes come in less and the other sources don't come in more, and those other two would be our enrollment fees and then the Prop 30 EPA, then we're relying on the state general fund to backfill. And that's not always just automatic, but so far year over year, that has kicked in.
Okay. Thank you.
And the key, and the challenge, I'm sorry. ma'am.
no, please.
And the challenge that Billy and I have to deal with is whether the state is going to assume a deficit factor, which means that they will promise to fund us, but they won't fund us initially. So they're putting everything forward. They're gonna kick the can down the road. This year, we're not expecting a factor, are we? Last I heard was a 0% deficit factor, whereas the state changed its mind at this point.
I think there's going to be a deferral at the end of this fiscal year where they pay us at the beginning of next fiscal year, which happened this last year as well.
Which is a promise of payment. If that makes any sense.
Trustee Jerome,
So do we need to go to do the trans again?
We continually monitor our cash flow to
Okay.
ensure that we don't need to, or if we need to, then we'll start the process. But right now, it doesn't look like it's not as big as the last time we had to do a tran.
I wonder if you could take a few minutes and explain what a tran
Yeah.
is for our new trustees.
That's great.
And TRAN, again, one of those acronyms, the tax and revenue anticipation note, it's a short-term borrowing.
What does it
mechanism.
stand for? I don't know.
Tax and revenue anticipation.
Okay.
And usually it's,
known as a train.
Tran.
yeah, and usually it's for about a year, and it's just a finance tool. We work with underwriters, we work with our financial advisors. Sometimes if it's a large enough problem, you'll pull together with other districts, but you just anticipate what your cash flow challenge is gonna be. You go forth with your borrowing, and then you pay back that amount within about a year or so time period.
It's like a really short-term bond.
It's not a bond, but it's,
It's,
Or no.
we're just borrowing money, so it's a loan that is responsible for it. And we have done this in the past.
A loan with interest, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
yes, of course, somebody, they.
basically it is.
Yes.
And because we were discussing this when trustee Rice and I had a conversation at his mentor about this budget and what have you, came up the cash, the actual cash that's in the bank, could you just,
In the county
Dr. Fletcher,
treasurer.
could you just explain for the
Thank you,
two
I'm
new
going to hand
trustees?
it off to Vice President Morris.
Did I ask you?
Right.
So you're asking
I know what
about
the
our-
question is.
Yeah,
With the cash in the bank, because I talk about me and the reserves and what cash do we actually have?
so it's based on our actual cash, not receivables. So we look at our actual cash in the bank. And then we also look at actual revenue that will be coming in during the time periods in the future, and then the expenditures, so the cash inflows and outflows. And if it looks like we're gonna be dipping down into our actual cash to a negative, then we will go forward with the train.
And for the record, it's not a bank.
Right.
We don't bank.
It's the county.
It's the county treasury. Right.
So, but is the reserve or the fund, the general fund that we were talking about before, that's not
No.
the amount of cash that's held in the county, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Which is the question that is raised every year.
Every year with me, and that was why we were coming with it, even though we have a reserve of 9%, we may only have 3% in cash, correct, Dr. Flynn? Or, what, hypothetically,
Hypothetically correct.
yeah.
I think you can continue if you'd like.
Okay. Let's see, I didn't have a whole lot of other highlights, because there has been some minimal differences between this budget and the tentative budget. Like I mentioned, we had I guess the major, the other thing I didn't mention yet is about the unrestricted general fund, the transfers out. The overall number did increase because we've expanded the different funds that we're providing support for. But we were able to, looking at actuals for our other post-employment benefits, so our retiree benefit expenditures, they have gone down. So the typical OPEB transfer out of 750,000 has been decreased to 650,000. So I thought that was noteworthy. And everything for the most part on the other funds, other than making the salary and benefit adjustments as per the temp recs that have come in and the position inventory, all the other amounts are pretty much the same.
Could you also talk a little bit, I imagine the trustees may have a question, where do we count for the Measure I bond fund?
Sure.
Because it's not in this budget.
So let me find the right page to jump to, and that is our capital outlay fund. And that is, let me find the page. Okay, it is PDF page 26 or report page,
Yeah, 26.
26 or report page 18, looking at page numbers. So this is where we account for all our Measure I funds that have come in. This is where we account for any of our local capital outlay. If you recall, we've done some transfers out from the unrestricted general fund for some specific purposes. So we have our local capital outlay accounted for here as well. Then also for our PE, our state funded project, we also account for that activity in this one as well.
Please, trustee Rice.
So this reflects the bonds that were sold, the funds came in and then will be paid to the
Different projects.
for the different projects. But then the discussion or the information relative to like how in the future is that revenue comes in and then is used to pay back those bonds is a different thing that we don't look at in this process, is that right?
It has its own fund. That is actually in the debt service fund. So that has its own page. I don't know if you want me to jump to it, but that is where we're accounting for,
Do we need
Yeah.
to go there? Do we gonna muddy the waters if we talk
It's
about?
page 22 of 33 or page 14.
so that's where we account for, we still have our outstanding Measure Q, we have our new Measure I, and then we have our outstanding certificate of participation. Other than that, if there aren't any other questions,
I think trustee doing this.
I'm sorry, trustee Jordan.
But we don't have a debt on Measure I. The college per se in the budget doesn't have a debt on Measure I or Measure Q. We have it on the,
the
COP,
COP.
yeah.
certificate of participation. Which is a loan that we funded.
There are further questions. I'll also commend the explanation that was provided. That is for me extremely useful.
Good, thank you.
And for those who might not be following along, this is a very significant document. It's in 33 pages. It is available on our webpage somewhere.
It will be posted to the business office reports page.
So it's extremely well done, and I applaud you and your team for the excellent work. There are no further questions. I think we're ready to vote on approving the final budget. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Objections? Final budget is approved. Thank you all. That moves us to our next action item, which is, well, actually, it's not an action item. This is a first read of a revised policy, board policy 2431, president superintendent selection. It is presented to you redlined. Just to clarify for those who might not be as familiar, the board looks at policies twice. We have a first read to get any kind of comment or feedback, and if necessary, that would be revised, and then it would come back as a second read at the following board meeting, during which we would actually vote on it. So at this point, it is simply an information item. Trustee Dorn was the chair of the committee that put this together, so I'll turn it over to him.
And I think everybody still remembers who's on the committee, President Mullery and Vice President Matthews. This was really an amazing collaborative experience with President Flamer also helping us write this. I think there were at least 10 revisions, if not more. And actually down to reading certain words of how commas and what have you. So I'm really proud to have participated in the committee, and I'm extremely proud to present this revised policy to you all for your questions and your comments. And I'm happy to explain, if you wish, why some things were changed. And I guess that's it.
So, questions, comments, concerns? I thank Julie for providing the red line, because by the time the committee was done with it, it was just a mess.
Yeah.
So you did an excellent job, because I think it's important that our colleagues see, you know, the changes that are being recommended. So thank you for doing that.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
So that it talks about contract for the services of a professional consultant. And then does that, it sounds like that can just kind of reshape the process in a way or follow the process. How do we, I guess, how do I understand how it works?
I get it. So the reason that was in there was if at some point in the way future, we are looking for a new president and the board decides to use a consultant, the consultant may have an entirely different process that they like to use. They're gonna be on the cutting edge of hiring this new person. And so we didn't want to be locked in with a policy that didn't allow us to follow the consultant's advice. I mean, why pay the consultant all this money if we're not gonna listen to it? So that was.
No, you're absolutely right, but it was when you said if a consultant comes in with an entirely different process, I wouldn't anticipate an entirely different process. You know, the consultant's not going to come in and start changing our committee structure. But the consultant, because he or she would have all this experience, might have recommendations in terms of interview questions or reference checking or things of that nature. But I would not anticipate a change to, you know, the committees, for example. In that process. It would be more just procedural stuff.
That makes sense. I just wanted to understand it because it sounded like a very specific, detailed process and then a general reference to you may do something else. So to understand that you have the flexibility to go with the expert thinks, they have a 5 phase or a 19 phase, whatever, you can kind of use their advice. I got it.
And we also spent quite a discussion about reference checks. That was, probably a half an hour discussion of the committee and who should do it. And because of this position, And being the board's only employee, it was deemed that it was better for the board to do this than for HR.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing no further questions, I also wanted to again thank President Flamer because he was very helpful to the committee in helping us work through this. It was a very good exercise for the three of us.
Good, sorry.
All right, seeing no further questions, you will see this again in October. September already.
It is.
Okay,
So just so that we know, do you want red line for the second read approval? Or want to clean it
I
up?
want to clean, yeah, and that's what we normally do. If somebody wanted to go back and look at the red line, what they have to do is go back and do this. But we would be approving the final document. It would be clean.
Just want to make sure.
But again, just rest assured to trustees, if you want to look at the red line again, it would stay on our webpage. Or the page for agenda items. Okay, that takes us to informational reports. 6.1, affordable student housing, statewide lease revenue bond, SLRB agreements. President Lambert, do you want to tell us what's happening
Do
here?
we have no our consultants on?
Looks like I saw Chris Ferguson.
Mr. Ferguson, are you with us?
And there's Ronnie.
Oh,
I am.
Yes, so we have our two consultants from the chancellor's office. If the board remembers, we were, I shouldn't say guaranteed, but promised 28.4 million, thank you, Vice President Wilson, from the state to augment our bond funds for the new student housing project. And we asked a few folks from the chancellor's office to be from the chancellor's office to walk the board through the myriad of paperwork that we would need to have you approve it. So what we thought would be to explain it today
Mhm.
and answer any questions in it, bring it forward for the board's approval in October, and we can get the process started on collecting more funds from the state. Is that a reasonable explanation?
Yes, thank you.
What we want to call on?
Yeah, Ronnie or Chris, did you want to go ahead and get started?
Yep, we're ready. Is it okay if I share my PowerPoint over Zoom? Great. Just want to make sure I don't complicate anything on your end. Okay. Okay. Just want to confirm that everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, I wanted to give a thank you to Dr. Mullery and VP Matthews for having us here, as well as the additional coordination with President Flamer and VP Morrison. Thank you so much for having us here to present and discuss the statewide lease revenue bond for the California Community Colleges Affordable Student Housing Program. Just to give a little bit more context for this funding solution and why we're pursuing a state lease revenue bond, it was well framed coming in. It's that we were funded by state general fund, with SB 169 in the 2021 budget, in the 2023 budget with SB 142. The state had encountered the structural budget deficit that we're currently experiencing. So the solution was to come up with a solution in 2023. And in 2024, SB 155 outlined our state lease revenue bond program. Provides about 805 million in state lease revenue bond for affordable student housing projects, including the one at College of the Redwoods. Before we continue, I did want to make a couple of additional notes on this. State lease revenue bond as a funding source from the state for capital projects is not new. It's new in recent history. It's something that we haven't done as a state as a financing mechanism for about the last 20 years. But in previous decades, this was a a pretty normal way of funding major capital outlay projects. Another thing that I wanted to note up front too is that this funding structure is also used for other programs like ours, where the state is funding local districts and supporting, public infrastructure programs. So we are, essentially relying on a program that has proven to work for other programs. So I wanted to just note those things up front. I wanted to just check with Chris for a moment and see if you have any additional comments.
No, I don't have any additional comments. I think, in large part, what you're seeing through the affordable statewide lease revenue bond program is the state shifted from a general fund program to this structure to make sure the projects could continue to move forward in a way that the state could afford to make that happen. So it's a little more difficult to navigate the waters, but it ensures the projects can move forward.
Thanks, Chris. All right, continuing on, I just wanted to kind of note the major topics that we're going to be talking about associated with the state lease revenue bond funding mechanism. We're going to be talking about real estate due diligence. Actually, this will be the portion where we talk about it the most. What we're doing with real estate due diligence is the Chancellor's Office is working with the Department of Finance and the State Public Works Board to assess the college's ability to participate in the program. This is a first initial step to make sure that the real estate title is essentially clear for all of the entities that are going to be involved with this project, meaning the state Public Works Board, Chancellor's Office, can also participate with the participating college or the district, in this case, to construct the housing. So we have to go through that initial major step. We have received real estate due diligence documentation from College of the Redwoods. Everything's looking great from our end. If there are any issues that we need to discuss, we'll bring those up down the line. But everything's looking good on that portion. But there may be more questions coming up from the Department of Finance just to make sure that we have that we close that loop on real estate due diligence. So that's the first big step. The next one is the project delivery and construction agreement. You may be familiar, especially with the capital outlay program, of final project proposals or FPPs. This functions in kind of a similar way. What it does is it defines the scope, the budget, and the different certifications that are part of the project. It's the big agreement that basically describes what the project is, how it's going to be constructed, and it's signed off by all parties, meaning, of course, the Redwoods CCD, the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, Board of Governors, as well as the California State Public Works Board. So we're all in agreement over this major agreement, which is the project delivery and construction agreement. And then part of that will also include the project construction or project delivery and construction agreement will include a rental covenant or a land covenant, which basically restricts rents or ensures affordability for students for that project. We want to make sure that for the life of the project that it remains affordable for students. And then the last piece that we'll be talking about, and this is what's going to take up the bulk of the rest of the presentation, is the simultaneous agreements that are part of the lease-leaseback structure. And this is where the State Public Works Board, Board of Governors, and participating college district will agree to ground lease, easement, and right-of-way or right-of-entry agreements to actually develop the project and to operate it together. Okay. All right. So we're going to spend the next few minutes just kind of teasing out what I had introduced at the top. So let's talk about the communications process. So the typical communications process for state lease revenue bond projects is for, in our case, the participating college to be in contact with the Chancellor's Office and we'll be in contact with the State Public Works Board and the Department of Finance, and that will be the general flow of communication as we continue. Let me just get some of these populated really quick. There we go. As I mentioned up front, we're going to be doing a due diligence documentation review where we're going to be making sure that the title is clear for state involvement in the project, meaning that there aren't ownership stakes that would preclude us from being able to sign on and participate in co-developing this project. Going forward from there, we reach the project delivery and construction agreement with the restrictive covenant. So again, this is going to define the project's scope, budget, schedule, and is the agreement which all parties agree to regarding the scope of the project and how it's going to be owned and operated for its life of operation. And then we're also going to be working through the lease back agreement structure, which I'll just jump into in a moment. But first, I wanted to see if there's any questions, or Chris, if you had anything to add. Okay, it looks like I'll continue on. Okay. So within the lease-back structure, the first agreement that's going to come into play after the project delivery and construction agreement are the ground lease. And the ground lease is essentially the district or the participating college leasing the project site to the Board of Governors. Again, because we also have stake in this project. So that's going to be the first step. The State Public Works Board will also consent. The next major agreement is the site lease agreement, and this is when the Board of Governors leases the project site to the State Public Works Board. So this solidifies their involvement also, along with the PDCA in this project. After that, there's a facilities agreement, which connects the State Public Works Board, where it leases the project site back to the Board of Governors. And then part of this is a funding, is the funding commitment, which is the annual appropriation for this lease, is what secures this bond. So part of the facilities lease is also the commitment to ongoing funding from legislature. And then the fourth part is the facility sublease. So this is where the Board of Governors leases the project site back to the college to allow for the construction and development activities. Okay. Sorry, I skipped ahead just a moment. But these are the agreements that essentially connect all of us together. Again, that's your district with the California State Public Works Board and with the Chancellor's Office, and allows for the construction and development of the project, as well as spells out how the funding is going to be secured through annual appropriations from year to year to pay for not only the state's portion of the lease, but the debt service financing.
I believe we have a question from trustee Doran.
Sure.
So for the ground lease, if I understand correctly, we're only talking a percentage of the total cost of the project? Correct? So for the ground lease, you get 100% interest in the property, or the percentage of the amount of money the state's loaning us to the total cost of the project?
I think I understand the question. So for the ground lease, really these are just the agreements that are going to be put in place that allow for the development of the projects. How the funding will be released to the college for the development of the project will actually be similar to the capital outlay project, where there's going to be a claims and reimbursement process. As you work through different phases of the project, we'll be releasing different amounts of money for those phases according to the project budget that you submitted. And then we'll also be doing cash flows on a 6-month basis to understand what your needs are for cash flow and reimbursements back for each of the months, each month within that 6-month period. So the money's going to, the agreements allow for the money to flow, but the money will be coming through a claims and reimbursement process, process.
But we lease, so you're gonna get 100% interest in the ground lease will be for 100% interest in the property. Is that correct?
Well, the interest would be shared between the parties. Chris, did you have a response to the board member's question?
Yeah, I think effectively it is intended to cover the totality of where the building would be constructed for that ground lease. But ultimately, on this leaseback structure, that eventually returns back to the district in whole. So it's not permanent for the rest of time. It's just for the duration of the lease revenue bond, and then inevitably that returns to the district.
Trustee Rice has a question.
I think I have the same question, but asked slightly differently. So let's say that the state funding provides 50% of the total cost of the project. But the ground lease would presumably hand over 100% of the control of the project to this process. Is that how it occurs, or does the state's contribution align with the quote control of the project as represented through the leases? Is that the same?
Yeah, they're just more articulate.
Okay, I'm unsure that there is a process in which the state would have less than 100% under this funding structure. Under this funding structure, we're agreeing to be part of this together. So this is, in my opinion, based on how it's constructed, I believe that it's a 100% agreement between all parties and ownership. There isn't partial ownership while the project's being developed or operated. That would happen when the term of the bond ends.
Is this funding supporting 100% of the student housing project?
It is not. It's about a third or fourth.
Okay,
So I think originally it was 28 million, and then I believe you just mentioned 24 million?
It's
28.4.
Oh, 28.
So, Chris, I'm wondering if we should clarify what interest means. Like, what interest does the state have, and what control will the state have on the district's project if the district is paying 3/4 of it from our measuring bond?
Well, if we're talking about financial, there isn't a gain for the state on this. The state lease revenue bond funding mechanism essentially just pays for our portion of the project, as it was defined in your budget. So the projects there isn't really a benefit for us, if that's the question.
Yeah, the state will not benefit in any way on that portion. The intent there is that the state needs to ensure that the property is available, a property upon which this facility will be constructed is available and has no restrictions on it, so that it can ultimately sell the lease revenue bonds to support the construction of the project. The difference being that the local bond is issued as a general obligation bond, so it's not tied to the land underneath that building.
And so the state has no financial interest in this project. It's just to make sure it's clean, right?
Effectively, the state's financial interest is ensuring that the project is seen to fruition and comes online, because that's the only way upon which it can issue the lease revenue bond. If the project were not to go to completion, then it would not be able to sell the lease revenue bond. So it has a vested interest in seeing that you're successful in this endeavor.
Thank you, gotcha, appreciate it.
Go ahead, trustee Rice.
What happens with the, they had a restricted covenant that was indicated earlier, but doesn't show up in the leaseback structure?
See that.
Are you talking about the room rates?
I don't know what it exactly, I didn't fully catch what it meant or what it implied, but the reason that the reason to ask it is that the local taxpayers are saying we funded 75% of the project this way, and so what's that restricted covenant do to their share of the project? Cause you get why the state can say
Understood.
our share is
I understand.
this way, but the state seems to be saying the whole project, including the local share, is gonna be treated a certain way, and
Good
you know what
question.
I'm, okay.
You wanna tackle that or would you?
I think that one of the if we're talking about restrictions, I don't know if this is exactly what you're referring to, but it's about the rental rates, the affordable rental rates,
Okay.
which we were aware of when we went into this grant before it became the state lease revenue situation. So we had already committed to 181 affordable beds from the get-go for the life of the project. So I think that's one of the biggest restrictions.
Which is why we didn't want the full funding of the housing project to be funded through this mechanism. It's so that we have some control over 3/4 of the beds that we can raise the cost as we need.
Oh, so that kind of answered.
Right. So I think that will answer your question, is that
I think, how many beds are there total?
241,
240,
240? Hold on.
it might be 241 actually.
Thank you, for the record, I was right, okay.
So the final step, when the board leases the project back to the college, leases it to allow for construction, then when does the state's involvement end? When the project is complete and signed off by the, or the,
We don't use that term any longer, we're talking about PSA.
DSA, right, I'm sorry, I couldn't acronym.
Yes.
So when does the state's interest totally end? When the beds are occupied or?
I say, correct me if I'm wrong, Ronnie or Chris, but I think to answer trustee Dorn's question, it's when the bonds are paid off, when the bonds are mature.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So this is good.
If I may be helpful here, the state's involvement in terms of the bonds and when those bonds are repaid, which would then, return outright control of that land to the district. However, the state in no way has developed any structure around it will dictate how the operations of the facility will occur at the local level. It's not going to do that in any way. So you'll have full control as to the operations of the student housing.
And how much we charge?
No,
The portion of it, yes.
Just the portion, just
Just
the
the
three
portion of
quarters,
the
like you said.
It's
Okay.
60
Okay,
beds.
I thought he was saying something different than what you said.
Yeah, and if I could be helpful on this point too, so the rents that are market rate are up to the district. So those rents are you can locally set. However, the rents that are associated with the beds in the application for the affordable student housing program will be set to a ceiling of 30% of 50% of area median income for a single occupancy unit. And I know that that's a mouthful. I can send you what that calculation is, what that ceiling rental rate is. But those are the share of projects that will need to meet the affordability requirement, which were proposed. Additionally, the restrictive covenant that's associated with the project is for those beds. It's to make sure that those beds remain affordable for the life of the project. And the covenant does continue. So I just wanted to mention the link there too between the restrictive covenant and then also the affordable rents.
Trustee Rice.
What's the life of the project And how does that connect to the duration of the bond?
The life of the project can be independently determined. That's up to your facilities team and administrative team to determine if it's a facility that's useful life is 50 years, 60 years, what makes sense based on your local context and planning context.
I think the one exception being, Ronnie, and correct me if I'm mistaken, as long as the bond is still out there, the facility still has to be in operation. It's only once that bond is repaid that, you could say, hey, we're done with the useful life of this facility.
Yes, yeah, and that's exactly right, Chris, is that it wouldn't end before the bond, the useful life wouldn't end before the bond.
And, unfortunately, I can't say, what the length of the bond would be from the state because they issue at different lengths depending upon the point in time and the interest rates that they can get. So, the usual is it's going to average somewhere between 10 to 30 years, but it ultimately just depends on the market conditions when they go out for the bond.
I think we're done with it. Oh, sorry, I love that. Yeah, go ahead. We have a question from an audience member.
It's probably more crucial later, but, are our current housing rates considered affordable?
Not by these
Okay,
definitions.
so this could be a benefit to students,
Actually, it will be a benefit to
have lower
students.
income, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
If I could help add a little context, I think it's important, is when looking at rental rates by the state's program and by the local contribution via local bonds, effectively what you're able to do is remove the cost of debt service from the rental rate calculations, which is actually a substantial portion of rental rates when it comes to dorms and student housing.
So looking at your next slide, and I anticipate it's going to result in some questions. I think we still have at least one more question. But if you're done with this slide, may I recommend that we move to the next slide?
Absolutely. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So I think you can see that. Okay.
Yeah, we have it.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, the second to last slide I have here, I think the last one's a thank you slide. So this is the last set of information that's that I'd like to share. It's about conformance and execution, or rather the review and approval process and the formal sign off. So really this is kind of in practice how we imagine that this process is going to work for the state lease revenue bond. The shuffling of documents and approvals. So the district board is going to approve the draft agreements. So that's what it looks like you're seeking to do potentially in October. Certifies affordability requirements, and then the chancellor's office, my team is going to review any documentation that's submitted, and then we're going to work together on ensuring that the scope of work in the PDCA, that's the project delivery and construction agreement, aligns with what was proposed. Excuse me, sorry about that. And then the State Public Works Board is going to adopt resolutions approving eligibility and financing for your project. So that's after we get through this initial push of review and approvals of the agreements. And then the formal agreements are going to be finalized. We'll have dates, terms, and exhibits associated with those. The district is going to sign the ground lease agreement. The Board of Governors is going to sign the site lease agreement, and then we're going to sign the site lease agreement too, and facilities agreement in connection with the State Public Works Board. We're going to sign the facility sublease, and then return the facilities to the district. And then after that, we're going to confirm the restrictive covenant and right of entry is recorded. And then on the state's end, the state treasurer is going to sell the bonds. And then the district is going to be able to operate its affordable student housing underneath this funding structure. So those are really the big steps in practice on pulling these agreements together and how we envision it's going to work in processing these state lease revenue bond agreements and getting all the certifications required to allow for the construction development of the project.
Trustee Jordan, I think you had a question before we moved to this slide.
Well, I'm back to the affordability.
Okay.
So if you have an out-of-state student, does that affect what they pay in the dorm, or they would just pay whatever market rate is, or not market rate, what the established rate is?
It would depend on if they, and we haven't gotten that far yet, we haven't gotten to how we determine who gets placed into those affordable beds. So I think that's up for determination.
So, and we don't have a cost, the gentlemen were saying making this more affordable because we don't have a cost in the money, I believe, from their 28 million. We're not paying interest on that,
Correct.
but we're not paying interest
On the, our,
on 80 million, yeah,
that's right,
or, well, yeah. 90.
665 of them.
He's right, I mean, their money, it would be 31% of the total cost of the project. Okay.
I have just a general question, regarding a typical timeline for this process. I'm sure it depends on a number of factors, but is there sort of a standard timeline that we could anticipate moving from review and approval to formal sign off?
You know, we're kind of building the plane as it flies that way. If I can be honest, we are just now starting to work through this process with other districts who are under the state lease revenue bond. So far, it has taken time. This process has taken about a month or two, but there's varying information that's available from those districts. So it's tough to ballpark, but I would say between a month or two if I can be
Well,
as
that's
bold
good.
to ballpark it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, a year or two. So, a month or two, I think we can all live with. I just wasn't quite sure what we could anticipate. I'm sure there are all sorts of weird things that could happen, but, that sounds reasonable, at least to me.
Yes, we do.
Trustee Rice has a question.
So in the, if I roughly understand what it is, the state will provide, say, 25 to 30% of the funding, say 30% of the funding. But they will apply affordable requirements to roughly 75% of the beds. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the affordability, it will be based on the number of units that you have listed in your application. So if they're not all affordable units, then you will have varying rents. You could charge market rate versus low income. But there is, because it is an affordable student housing project with affordable student housing in it, though it may not be the bulk of the housing, it is considered an affordable student housing project with rents that have to be within the affordability ceiling for the number of beds that were specified in the application.
No question, affordable student housing is super critical, particularly
Yeah.
for community colleges and stuff. But what happens, because it goes on a long time, if you're talking 50 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
What happens, like if the cost of supplying the unit exceeds the rent received in the unit in the future, like whose pocket does that come out of? Because 50 years is a long time to commit to that.
Well, I would anticipate that the rents could fluctuate over time.
They're going to fluctuate.
Yeah,
No, I know, but whatever time in the future.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the future, or I don't know what their formula is. Do we know what their formula is to define affordability?
Yes, Moni,
Yes.
did you want to go over it really quick?
Yeah, I can go over it really quick, and I apologize, it's a little jargony, so please bear with me. So it's 30% of 50% of regional AMI for a single occupancy unit. So I'll kind of break that down. So based on the just normal cost of a single occupancy unit within Humboldt County, or the counties that you serve where the project is located, we look at, okay, what's 30% of that cost, of that rental cost for that specific unit. And then we essentially reduce it from that 30% by 50% again. So it's very affordable for students. And then that's what the rent is for that bed. It's the 30% at 50% of what Humboldt County or the other counties that you serve, their annual median income.
So if it's if the average unit is $100, what does that make
Mhm.
the?
So, I mean, you're asking me to do quick math off the top of my head, which I can do really quick. Do you want me to pull it up? I mean, would it be helpful to see it calculated?
It's $15.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it would be for $100, but yeah, that's essentially how that calculation should work.
Sure, President Flamer has a comment.
If I can put some context to why we're sitting here today, there's two reasons. One, we have dorms that were built in the seventies. I do have a picture of trustee Dorn smoking in the hallway when the dorm was built, right? And
Still, I told them they were 55 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to be frank with you, we're not in a competitive advantage to our competitors, because some schools are upgrading their dorms to be more modern. Ours are not. We could not afford it. The other piece is we have dorms that are sitting on top of fault lines. The options, either we take the liability of the dorms and fault lines, or we try our best to build dorms on cleared ground. Right, and so that's the context of the conversation of why we're sitting here today. Okay.
Go ahead, trustee Dorn.
So I just want to clarify, because I think trustee Rice said something that I agreed with, and I think you said it. How many rooms out of the 240 are going to be under the affordability clause with the state?
It's not rooms, it's beds.
It's best.
And
It's
we,
beds.
in our application, we committed to 181
181
beds.
beds, and we have a total of 240 beds?
240,
Okay,
41.
and so have you run the numbers about how much this may lose a month?
Our consultant, we've been working with
Okay.
Servitas from the get-go, may I? Sorry.
Please.
Yeah,
And we do a total cost of ownership, we do a calculation of, and this we even did before we even knew we had Measure I, we were considering doing the USDA grant. So even in those situations and factoring in, maintenance costs and everything, so long as we had a certain fill rate, we were in luck.
So we wouldn't be sitting here unless we made sure that the cost benefit analysis was in our favor.
Right, no, I was just looking at trustees Rice's question at $15. I know it's not gonna be 15, but it's, it could be $150 a room, a bed.
We are not gonna lose money on
Okay.
the project.
Yeah, I think that's the big concern.
That's
I hear-
that's the concern we have to the taxpayers, yeah.
Just like everything else, that we will set the revenue based on what the expenditures, or we reduce the expenditures to match what we bring in revenue through the facilities. Does that make sense? So that's a balance, so we'll go into this balance.
Because we really don't have an expense in construction of the building.
The only.
Our expense is, well, if I can summarize, is basically the staff maintenance.
Yes.
Is where our expense is operational. It's not like buying an apartment building and expecting a return on it. I mean, there is no return on it. It's student affordability. Yeah, so we don't lose, the district doesn't lose.
so we break even.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we're not in the real estate business.
I understand that, right, and that's what I was pointing out.
But it's-
We break even.
Trustee Rice.
But it's true that we, and presumably it's been done, because for example, if you're getting $15 a bed and it costs you $25 a bed to maintain and provide the service, then that's created an unsustainable, you want to be careful the project doesn't create an unsustainable economic situation either, because most of this project was funded by local taxpayers
Correct.
who also have an interest in making sure the college stays. And that's where the questions are driving.
Yeah, no, excellent questions. My understanding is that you all have looked at this rather carefully with a consultant.
For several years, actually.
For several years.
Yeah.
But you know, these are good, important questions.
I'm just glad we are at this point.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be like the students that are paying more have to keep paying more and more because someone else is paying less and less too. So.
Let's see it. I'm looking at our presenters, Chris and Ronnie, if you don't mind using your first names. Is there, anything more you'd like to share with us?
I think I just had one, sort of comment, and that is when you just discussed fill rate, one of the things that we've seen in other districts as a potential, and there are a couple intersegmental projects, is nothing would preclude the district or the college in this case from working with Cal Poly Humboldt if you wanted to provide opportunities, if need be, to fill the facility up to 100%. So you have a lot of options as to how you do that, so long as you meet the affordability criteria.
Looking around, I don't, see any questions left for the two of you. I want to thank you for taking the time, to present this. This has been very useful, very helpful. And thank you for, responding to our questions.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We'll sign off. Thank you. Bye-bye. So I don't want to stop the conversation here at the table. Are there questions about this that you would like to ask to either President Flamer or to Vice President Julia Anderson? I know what Julia Anderson, I'm sorry. Yes.
To refresh my memory, what building did we use as security for the 7 million?
For the COP?
Yeah.
I think science,
Science building?
I think it's science, it's
But
science.
I didn't want to ask when we were discussing this. I was like, yeah, I couldn't remember which building. Thank you.
So my understanding is the paperwork will be reviewing paperwork for approval in October.
Yes.
Yeah, I was pleased when you responded to the timeline question. I mean, I didn't think it would move quite that quickly.
We expect to break ground this fall.
Straight.
We're waiting on DSA right now. Division of the State
I
Architect.
thought I'd ask one more time.
That'd be great. Well, this is very exciting. I was struck by, I think it's in the second slide, that residence hall is pretty slick looking. I was wondering if that was real. Or if it was just.
Is that this project or?
No, it's not this project. I'm just wondering if it's any project in the system because it looks,
It's AI.
that's what I figured. It was probably just made up.
And is there a minimum number of units that the students in there have to take
Well, go ahead.
in the requirement?
It's been a while since I looked at that piece, I believe so, but
Pyramid's 12 units.
Yeah.
Okay, that, I was gonna
They
say,
have to be full.
the full time, that was, yeah, my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happens in I guess I didn't, he had that one chart that showed where the contractual obligations go, the 3 that go down and then back up. But he also referenced some general fund allocation in there. That
From
would
the
be,
state.
because the lease presumably will include both the legal obligations and then a funding something, whether it's $1 or something else. What's that funding train look like in there?
So for that general apportionment funding piece,
He didn't explain it.
He did, and I wish on that diagram, when it talked about the contractual relationships, it also included the money flow
Yeah,
between
that
the
would be
parties.
great.
My assumption is that the state, I think it's the State Public Work Board that secures the funding. And so it's the state making the apportionment to make the debt obligation payments to the State Public Works Board. That's my assumption, or maybe I knew that and I just am trying to refresh, but it's kind of clunky. But like they mentioned, they've done this in several projects for several years.
And they're still building the plane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's really the part I think that makes it,
It is.
you just want to be thoughtful about it because it carries a certain perspective and optimism now. But in a decade, if things change or something, you may be sitting here with property that's empty and you can't do anything with it because it's got a deed restriction.
Yeah. I think it's unlikely that Cal Poly will need our doors.
Right, that's
what
right.
they just built, but maybe.
But some of those would be, it seems like some of that could come in the details of the leases and the covenant, the restricted covenant itself, like certain eventualities, there was ways to be like, if this happens. No. Sorry.
Well, it sounds like we will be revisiting this again in October and, it's helpful for me to have this presentation now because I think it may create, questions, at least for myself, that I might not have had once I actually see the paperwork.
Documents.
So I think it's very useful to have this, and thank you for arranging it. Do we want a break? I think we're good. Yeah. And we're really looking forward to our next agenda item. There you are.
Can I do a PowerPoint on the computer?
Yeah, I think we could share from there.
Yes.
Okay.
No, because I don't know how much time we missed to set this up, but we keep going, we can break later.
Well,
After
we can do it right now. and
Wow,
motions.
that'd be good.
For the record,
Okay, we're gonna take, while you're setting up, we're gonna take a
Thank
10-minute
you.
break.
I need
it
to.
used to be called the EMOD break, but it's.
Yeah.
That's all right. Oh, you know.
Like saying.
Yeah.
It's starting to get
Really.
Me, thank you, President Flamer, for suggesting that break. Excellent idea. An EMOD break. So I am, we are at, just so everyone's paying attention, we actually have an agenda. We're at 6.2, our Klamath Trinity site update. Thank you, Misty Knight, for being such a wonderful host, and it's all yours.
All right, so, in case you guys don't know me, I'm Misty Knight, I'm the program manager for KT. And what we do, we can't do without the staff, so I just wanna make sure I introduce everybody. Student service specialist and lead advisor is Matt McKinley, he pretty much does everything around here. We have, another student service specialist, Winnie Carpenter, and she's an academic support advisor also. And then I have Lance Britton, he's my student service specialist and tech and a support advisor. Principal accountant is Shaylin Moon. And so student activities coordinator is Twakin Latham, so anything with our high school students, Twakin will work with all of the kids that come over. And then receptionist, student support, or student services is Emerald Babancos. The only person I don't have pictured on here, he wasn't here, is Neil McKinley. And he's our security and kind of a maintenance person. You'll see him walking around. One thing about KT, we're a one-stop shop. If they need help with FAFSA, if they need help with enrollment, everything, they come to our office and we have to be able to do it all. So some of our retention activities, we have a student orientation twice a year. And we do that in January, August. Then we also do resume workshops and job fair in partnership with the tribe and the career center. These are flyers that we've had over the past year. And we do FAFSA Fridays, anything that we can do to help the students to get enrolled, you know, anything that'll help them out. We also have a basic needs food pantry and a laundry service here, right on the back side. We do, part of our program is in partnership with the tribe. So we also have a tribal HCOTEP program where students come in and they meet with Matt and Winnie, sometimes Lance. They have to do it 3 times a semester. So we make sure if they need tutoring, if they need any kind of support, that they're checking in with advisors at least 3 times a semester. And then part of that program, we also do a book loan program. So we'll purchase all the textbooks and the students will come in, whatever, you know, we look it up on the bookstore, order it for them, they just come in and pick it up. We have a laptop Wi-Fi loan program. I don't know if you guys have noticed, we don't get a lot of cell service around here in some areas, and you know, our internet can be spotty, so we try to provide them with Wi-Fi boxes if they need it. And then for the students, once they pass classes, we do a stipend program as well. Based on the amount of units that they take, that they pass, we will give them a stipend. And for students, let's say we have students coming here from Orleans, we will give them mileage. We'll pay them to get here, however many miles it is. And then if they take classes here, and then when they have classes they need, but they're out on the main campus, we'll also give them mileage assistance to go out to the main campus. So, oh, and then we've started to do movie night. We've had one movie night that we did with the students. It was in here, so we're also hoping to be able to do it in the student commons. Just a little bit more stuff that they might have out on the main campus. We want to try to do a little bit more here. Another one of our retention activities, of course, is our commencement. We do it annually, and with our dinner. This past year, we did Sashes of Success. So we give out all of our graduates, even the ones that aren't part of HCOTEP, we give everybody a graduate here, a sash. So what we did was we invited them to come in and do, you know, because we like them to be personalized, so they can pick a different design on the sash or the material that they want to use, abalone, deer hooves, pine nuts. We let them come in and do it, and then for those that didn't want to do it, my staff worked very tirelessly to make sure that we had some done that they could just come in and pick out. And then we also did a photo shoot for all of our graduates if they wanted to come in and take some pictures. And this is from our last graduation. Another thing that I've been really big on trying to get it going, and this is our 2nd year, was our community garden. You can check it out, it's on the far side with all of this warm weather. It's actually been doing really nice. That was our first, load of zucchini that we got, but we've been getting quite a bit, like our garden took off like crazy. One thing we wanna do is make sure that the students have access to food. We don't want them to have to worry about, feeding their family. They have access to anything in the garden. We have the food pantry, we even give out diapers, wipes, anything that they need. We wanna make sure that they have access to it here so that they can focus on, school, homework, and don't have to worry about that. So the other mid-semester is our other retention activities. You can see Sally won a prize. So she likes to come to our mid-semester, and this is where we just acknowledge all the hard work that they've done. We give out a lot of certificates, different categories, and so we definitely enjoy doing this. This is when we get to give out all of the acknowledgement, or just acknowledge all of their hard work. And so we do it twice a year. We do it in October, our next one will be next month, and then we do it in March. The other thing we've been trying to participate in a little more is going out to the ITSU Club. I take out a few of the staff who are also students, and we've taken out some students from here that want to go out and kind of see what it's about. And so we came out and participated in we had an end of the year fish cook dinner, and here's some pictures of that. But also some of the things that we've done is come out and help out. Like I do bear grass braiding sometimes with the group, and just being able to participate out there and offer our students, if they want to come out there with us, or, because sometimes it's hard to go out there if you don't know anybody or anything like that. So we like to bring them out if we can. And a current retention activity that we're doing is our LFM Equity Project. And we're hoping to partner with Cal Poly this go round. This is our third go round. And we want to identify the barriers and support systems for Native students, what they need to be successful. And we're hoping to partner with a sociology class at Cal Poly who will help with focus groups. They're gonna do the note taking. And then we're gonna be meeting at these academies. I don't have a picture of Kiowa yet, so he's going with us in a couple of weeks. And we're gonna talk about what are the questions, how we want this to go and how we're gonna put it together. You can see Tim made it out with us at this last one, and so this is our second go round. This was our second group. This is when Gussie was part of it. We've had Morgan part of our group, and it's definitely helped us to understand CR a lot better, especially because I was a new manager on our first go round, and then Morgan gave us kind of the ins and outs, like how things are ran at the campus. Because I had no clue about the unions or anything like that, or how things were ran, We wanted faculty, and it's like, well, how come we can't have faculty? And then learning with associate faculty, seniority, all of that, we had to understand a little more. And so with this LFM, we've learned a lot, my staff including, and so we're excited to do this project because we want a little bit more data, not just saying, hey, we know what students need, but we want to have the numbers to back that up. And Tim's been really great helping us with getting the statistics and all of that. And so now we want the students' voice. So we're gonna try to do some focus groups this fall and hopefully be able to analyze that soon after. So the other outreach events or efforts that we do, we have College Club that Chwakin is doing at the high school, and Captain John. This is her baby right here. She's gonna be my little softball partner.
Nice.
And then during the summer, we bring in the TANF youth. They come in here, they practice different career skills, doing PowerPoint presentations, all of that, but also learning about what possible career paths there are that we have here, and especially what they can take at CR. We try to target kids that don't think they're going to college, if they're got their plans, they know where they want to go, they get a lot of support over at the high school. But it's the ones that don't know where they wanna go. We just wanna make sure that they know that they can go here. They can go out to the CR on the main campus, and it doesn't have to be a four-year university. You know, we've got a lot of other courses that they can do and still make a good living, especially here. We have health fairs that we go to. There was one in Woodruff, we usually go to the one here in Hoopa. We do information tables at all of those. The other outreach events that we do are the Food for People. We like to go, they go to Willow Creek, Winchipeg, Orleans, Hoopa, anywhere that we can, you know, provide some information on our program here. And then one thing that I'm in the progress is trying to develop a career and education exploration program here at Hoopa with the juniors. I'm hoping to hear back soon. And that'll be through our NACTEC program, where I want to pay some of the high school students to go and check out the different careers that they have here and help them if they need any support in signing up for CR or just, you know, even doing FAFSA and getting ready so that whether they decide to do it or not, they'll be ready by the time that the enrollment comes around. The other events that we've done, we did a back to school block party and backpacks. And we didn't get a lot of pictures because we're doing the snow cone machine with our information, and we give out CR backpacks. We give out our backpacks for students that came here. But we also did the snow cone machine. It was like 90 degrees. They had no drinks or anything there. I'm pretty sure everybody came to the snow cone machine, at least probably twice. We were super busy, like just, it was nonstop. We had to go get ice a couple times. But we like to be at these type of events, you know, and show our face and show that, you know, we are supporting the college students here. And so the other thing that we were asked to go and have an information table that is at the high school for their Yummy Day. We've been learning how to do candy, what do you call it? Cotton candy, yeah. So that's another little thing we've been practicing with one of our machines that we have. But just, you know, always having my staff know the high school students is really important. Like, they're not afraid to come over and talk to any of our advisors. They pretty much know all of my staff pretty well. Sovereign's Day is another big event that we go out and we provide our information, our HCOTEP and CR, and we host the big watermelon eating contest every year. And then we do the parade, but we just want to be out in the community, and so they know who we are, and if they want to sign up for classes, and that's Emma right there. She's I don't know if I told you, but she is my daughter, but she, I wanted to throw a picture in there. Oh, and the other outreach event is we partnered with the softball team. They came out and did a girls empowerment and softball clinic partnered with Janet. And so our 3 local girls that are playing on the softball team came out and did the work with Michaela. And so it was a pretty decent event. I think we had between 30 to 35 girls that came out and did this 2-day event. They're wanting to do it again. They've been asking if they might be able to come out in November. So it was a lot of fun. And softball is a huge event or a huge sport here. You know, we've got a lot of girls that are interested in softball, and I think it's really important that they get to see these girls come back and just let them know that playing softball at college is not impossible. My girls never even thought they were going to play softball in college until they got to CR, so it's pretty exciting. The other event we like to try to do annually is our Earth Day. We did it with the After School Head Start and CR students. We try to invite the high school. It just so happened that they were closed that day, but it's also when we wanted to share, because we do the high school, you know, the introduction to forestry skills and careers. It's our certificate of recognition. That is our dual enrollment. It's the first time we've had dual enrollment in a very long time. And so that's one of the flyers that we handed out. We get, you know, even if they were younger, we did give it to some of our students that were there with their grandkids And just sharing that with them and so that they see some of the opportunities that we have, that the kids are being, asked to participate in. And so this is the second course to that dual enrollment that we did. It's the summer class that we had to do, which is also, we haven't had a face-to-face summer class in years. And so we did this one with the high school students. It was part 2. They're gonna have part 3 here soon, so we are doing a dual enrollment. We do a lot of concurrent enrollment now too, which we hadn't before when, we hadn't been doing it when I first started, and I'm not entirely sure why. But now we get a lot of high school students coming over, they wanna take English, they wanna take math. And so now they can get this, certificate of recognition in high school, and so we're really excited to be able to offer that to them. They did a presentation at the end of it that they really enjoyed, like going out and seeing the spotted owl and doing all of that with our, Forest Service people over here. I heard you guys talking about it. So, but yeah, they got to go out and, experience all of that. And so basically it's, 3 classes and not with the high school students, and it's a 5-unit certificate of recognition. And they would have a lot of the skills that they would need to be able to work at the forestry or natural resources. And I think it's important to mention, we're negotiating our MOA. And, basically this is the 24th year, next year will be 25 years with the partnership between CR and the tribe. So I think that's pretty exciting. In 2001, College of the Redwoods became the only secondary education within 65 miles of our reservation. And for everybody that's driven in here, you know how important that is, because driving over the mountain passes and trying to go to school can be a really tough, just a hardship, let alone trying to convince people that they can be a college student, and if they want to drive to like Cal Poly or something, sometimes they start here and then realize that they can do it, and then they can start, deciding if they want to make that drive to Cal Poly. Which is something that I did, so without starting here, I don't think I would have ever went to Cal Poly. So some of the work that we've been doing here for our building, I don't know if you've ever seen it previously, it looked really bad. So over the past couple of years, we've been doing a lot of improvements to our building here and the building up there. This was our office up there. This is all lead-based paint that was just peeling off. Once they seen it was lead-based paint, they just said, okay, don't touch it because you have to have like hazmat suits, all of that. So over the past couple of years, that's something that we've done is we went and had that all remade. We had our sign redone. The whole thing was like tipping over, it was almost falling down. So this is just within the past like 2 years, all of this has gotten redone. And then this building here, I just was taking we just walked around the building, but the whole bottoms were rotting out. And so part of what we've been doing is having CT classes here, doing existing buildings, and they've been doing a lot of work. And so what they've been doing is redoing all the sides. We also had a beautification project. And we've taken out like all of the old bushes and stuff because it gets hot here and it's hard to maintain, trying to keep everything green. So we're trying to do less, plants and shrubs that need a lot of water and we brought in like the decorative rock, and we'll put a couple, hardier type, just shrubs and everything around the building. And we also have food box now. We have outside food box where we can also offer people, access to food even when we're closed. And so, and also what they do, all of the boarding or the sidings now are like all hardy plank and everything, so they don't have to worry about the rot. Part of what they did too was replace all of these window frames that were rotted out. They weren't a big enough job for contractors to want to come in and do the work, and so it's been great having our students that do CTE classes here with CR, were able to come in and just do all of that work for us. So it's been really, really nice. The other thing that we did, like we've had all new carpet put in, we have all new computers and, what is it? Computers, we've got a new owl system in the computer lab, projectors and our kitchen in there, all the flooring's been redone. And all of this has been in the past couple of years. Our student commons, we had a new flooring and everything put in there, new couches, new table. We're trying to make it something that the students can kind of be proud of, that they want to come in and hang out. I believe we're gonna get like a new TV that we're gonna put in there for the students to be able to do, like our movie night, because we had to come sit in here to do movie night. But just stuff that makes them feel welcome and that they want to be here a little bit more often. And we have a lot of, people who bring their kids as well, so we have like a little, child corner in there just for those that need to bring their kids. Because, I mean, sometimes they can't find childcare, so we don't discourage them from bringing their children. If they need to, they're more than welcome to. And I think that's, yeah. So any questions?
I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Lots of work.
Lots of going on.
I know, I was excited when Keith said I got to do this, because I was thinking, well, he's been doing a lot, so. And like I said, without my staff, it wouldn't be possible, so they're a hardworking bunch. No matter what it is we're doing, if we have to stay late or anything like that, they're always right there with me, so. I do, just want to thank them for all their hard work, so.
I have a question regarding the partnership with the tribe.
Mhm.
So you obviously have spent, or the college has spent quite a bit doing improvements that were greatly needed.
Yeah.
And then you have other resources to provide items for students that.
Yes.
Mentions and that.
Yeah.
What piece of that is the tribe picking up?
So like the laptops, the stipends, the book one, all of that goes through the tribe, and like a large portion of our wages comes from the tribe.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the improvements here?
that did come from the MOA. That was one of the things they did include in the last 5-year MOA. And so without that, we would have done all of this work to the building down there, because there just wouldn't have been the funding to do it. So it's been really nice, like all of our flooring, even the CT class that we do, like all of the materials, that's one thing that we had to do was purchase the materials, and that all came from that funding as well. Like the boards to do that, the Hardy Point, all of that pretty much came from CR.
I wanted to mention that the instructor for the CTE class, Brent Best,
Yeah,
James, he was a student here at CR.
Yep.
And he's now a trustee for the Klamath Trinity School District. But his real passion is this nonprofit group he put together with this vision that he had to bring construction opportunities to the valley. And it's just been such a wonderful partnership.
Yep, and he still comes and he uses the classroom space a couple days a week, you know, we let him that BLBS, because it's a great program. He's been taking a lot of people in our community, you know, helping them with carpentry and then helping them get connected with the union.
Unions.
Yeah,
And getting really good wage jobs.
and then he also does our CTE to help teach those courses, so like he's done all of the remodeling here pretty much, so, yeah.
It looks like trustee Durrani had a question.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so this site here, does CR own it, or the tribe, or the tribe?
Tribals.
Yeah.
I know that.
Okay.
What's the average number of students that attend this campus?
So that's hard for me. The only number we track is our HCOTEP, because I have to report that to the Department of Education. So I can say around 80 to 100, just those students. But that's not counting our high school students. That's not counting our non-tribal students that come through here. And so I can say definitely more than 80 to 100 students. So, yeah. And that's around, we get around 82 per semester, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Great job.
Thank you.
This was really wonderful. Great presentation. Thank you. Okay, we are looking at 6.3, the Living Language Alliance and the College of Redwoods Indigenous Language Institute.
I'm gonna stand, help this down.
Wherever you're comfortable.
All right, you got that, I'll stand over here.
Sure.
All right,
Whatever works best for you.
Hey Young, Dillahan, Ayuki, Ayukui, Shangashong, Hapatlo, Shikuchi Pawawamlin, Shidu, manager of the Native American Student Support and Success Program, at the College of Redwoods. So, one of the things that was first asked to me after I got hired is, when are we gonna do a language institute? And, I was really excited because, language is one of my passions. There's an opportunity to host Live Your Language Alliance, which is a grassroots kind of different language communities come together and share what they're doing and, just have good conversation and, those kind of things. So we decided to host Lila at College of Redwoods and then tack on our first Indigenous Language Institute. So that occurred August 10th through the 14th, just recently. And so, I think, the next slide. So just so you know, the participants, we had about 85 participants, and the folks that were there work on all those languages. So those are all languages that we're representing. So we have, very local languages, Taladini, Karuk, Yurok, Hupa, Wiyot, Wailaki, Pit River, and then it kind of goes into other places. We have some folks that work on Pit River, which is east of here, east of Reading. Some Pomo folks, some folks from Oregon, Hanas and Coos, and then we have some Navajo friends as well. So we had quite a mixture of folks that ended up coming to Lila and Curly. So that's really cool. And there's probably like 4 major language groups that have had a lot of folks there. So that was Hupa, Talawa, Karuk, Yurok, I guess there's one that, Pit River, and there's Wailaki. So there's about six languages that had a lot of folks there. And they came from Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendo, Coos County. We had some folks from the University of Oregon, the University of Arizona as well. And we had an archivist come from Philadelphia. So we had folks come quite all over the place. And then that included elders, language learners, teachers, linguists, curriculum developers, program managers, archivists, and children. So it's very family oriented, and that's very important. When we're working on language, the multi-generational, relationship is really important to build back our languages. And I guess I should say that too, this is all an effort too for language revitalization, right? Language maintenance. All these languages up there, except for maybe Navajo, are very critically endangered languages. So that means the number of L1 speakers where the language they learn in their home is that language, right? And so that is, we don't have those, right? I can speak for Taladini, like our last L1 speakers passed in the early 2000s, but before that, like there wasn't very a big community of L1 speakers since like the 80s, probably 80s. So it's all varying degrees of language endangerment for all these languages. We had a lot of community partners as well. Native Cultures Fund, they actually fund Lila and have in the past, since its inception in 2008, 2009. NCIDC helped out, help from the Yurok Tribe Language Program and Taladini Nation Language Program, and the Sierra Foundation. So that's who the participants were. Slide. So just a little bit about the 2 days of Live Your Language Alliance. The theme was sharing our language love. So that was our work. I'm wearing the shirt, and I have some swag for you guys when we're done. But our work's done by Lynn Risling. She's a local artist. Maybe you might know her work. But yeah, so a lot of good conversation comes out of Lila, and you know, people like these terms like think tanks and things like that. And that definitely happens at Lila. You know, sharing what each program's doing. You know, how can we help each other? Those kind of things. And so we had a cultural dinner and cultural sharing. The first day was a Sunday. We actually had a CR student who cooked fish. So we had fish and different, we had some elk meat stew and beans and bread and some other fruits. And it was a really good dinner. Yeah, and then some cultural sharing. It's always important at these type of spaces, create that kind of welcoming, space, centered in like who we are. So that culture sharing definitely helps set that tone. And so that all happened in the LRC too. So that was really cool. Aaron Erling just spoke there, and prayers in our languages and songs being sung there. So that was really cool. So some of the topics included language pods, book development, community language classes. We had comparative linguistics going on. There's a study on the benefits of learning languages in high school that was reported on from the Europe language program. Just different resources that different language programs are using, online language resources, funding and maintaining language efforts, because that's really difficult. A lot of language efforts are grant funded, and so you're supposed to do all those great things in 3 years, and then the grant goes away, and then everything you built kind of dissipates a little bit. So that can be very difficult maintaining language efforts. And then we had a discussion on AI and language communities. So there's varying degrees of trepidation and excitement, very similar to the discussion that was in convocation in some ways. I personally am very worried about it, just because our language, we have a responsibility to them. So historically, institutions and are very extractive of Native communities, as far as especially like linguistics and anthropology and lots of things, and where they extract things from Native communities and don't bring it back and use it. So AI is like a souped up version of that as far as I see it. But yeah, so that was a really good discussion. And then we moved on to CRILI. So that was 2 days of that. And we met in like the LRC and used together classrooms for a little bit. For Lila, sorry. So the Institute, things that happened at the Institute, so language instruction, we had some immersion time that happened, and that was really cool. Dr. Morse was there and Dr. Flamer was there at some point. But it was really cool seeing like all these languages in immersion in the LRC. So those different languages, it was really neat. So different language teacher trainings, language curriculum development, and language augmentation. Those are kind of the themes of CRILI. So really, there's kind of like, I see it, there's like 3 facets of language revitalization. One is like language teaching, language learning. Another one's documentation, so that's like linguistic description, archival materials. And then like language policy. So CRILI kind of touching on those 3 different facets at different times. So we have presentations on our archiving language documentation by CR's Susan Gear. She's our librarian. she's a Kodak speaker, Kodak teacher, she helped develop the Kodak language base that's online, so she's like a real big asset. And then we had accessing language documentation, so we had Ruth Revere from Philadelphia, from the Philosophical Society that has language materials there and opportunities for students to come and do work there. Language teaching methods. So it's one thing to learn a language, another thing to be able to document your language, another thing to access archives, but it's a wholly different thing to teach your language. So we touched on that as well. And then we had a Lila and Curly strategic planning session, which was really, really good. I had a lot of good discussion in that. Yeah, and then, did you have a question? Oh, yeah. So that was Curly, so that was 2 days, it was all, was really good. Hang on, is that my last slide? Oh, no, I got the future, okay. So that was, Sunday through Thursday. And then, so the future of Lila, we're forming a planning committee. It's a 2-year commitment to plan for the next, Lila, gathering. And then, CR has committed to, hosting the next Lila, conference in 2027. And then future of Curly, which is the fun part, I think we're all really excited about. So teaching our local languages. So currently, Hoopball 1A and 1B are taught at College of Redwoods by Danny Hammond here at the KT site. Europe 1A is in the catalog. Currently, no one's teaching it, but I know language folks are really want to get that going, and then developing a 1B for Europe as well. Talo Dani, I'm working on a 1A, 1B for it. Kaduk, Susan's working on a language class for CR for Kaduk. And then we are, some of you might know Maureen Atkins, she's a former professor here. She's working on Seleflik or we are. So that'd be pretty cool having 5 local languages here. And I was talking to our Pitt River friends, trying to convince them to get interested in possibly, teaching Pitt River through CR too. And I'm pretty sure I can say this, that there's no other colleges, not just community colleges, but colleges in California that are teaching, 5, maybe 6 native languages on their campus. So that would be pretty amazing and pretty helpful. And then other actions is form an advisory council for Curly, review other language institutes, because there are other native language institutes. So like our friends from U of O, the Northwest Indian Language Institute is there. And then ALDI, which is the American Indian Language Development Institute, is at the University of Arizona. So some of those folks are here too. And there's some other ones too throughout the states. And then developing some workshops and seminars throughout the year. So not just having an institute just during, one time a year, but that could be, help our language teachers or language learners. So it's continual, because a lot of times, like I have a lot of experience with NILI, the Northwest Indian Language Institute at U of O. And it just happens a lot where like you go in there, it's like really intense, like 8 to 5, with like 3 hours of homework, like for 2 weeks, and like, students pump out this like cool stuff. And then like they go to the communities, or, they don't like come back to it, right? Just like refining their craft, or refining their tools, to teach a language or learn the language. So I think it would be really helpful to have ongoing things where, teachers and language learners can work on that. And it doesn't always fit, right? So, I mean, like, that's in Eugene, Missy's saying a lot of folks have, families or community obligations, so it's like hard to go to like these institutes and other places. So if we were able to offer those things here, it would be great. Develop a curriculum for 1-week summer language institute, and then give credit earning opportunities for teachers and communities for those continuing ed units that they might need. Cause I don't know if you guys are aware, so in the public school system, there's, started with AB 544, where tribes can define who is credentialed to teach their language in the public school system. Now it's AB 160, but some of those teachers are actually in the school district or employed by the school district, and so if they wanna, refine their craft or move up the, the ladder, they need those continued education units. So we could, provide those opportunities to Curly. Some other possibilities for the future of Curly, developing a certificate program for language teaching or language revitalization. And then, how can that build up or work with our, our local tribes and tribal communities through California. Integrating local languages and other programs at CR. We have a lot of programs that work in or with native communities or native tribes. So how much of an asset would it be for them to come in with, more understanding of language and culture and of those tribal folks if they take language classes. A language archive, a repository for language materials to go. I don't know if anyone's familiar with, there used to be CITC, the Community for Indian Development Council. It used to be at Cal Poly Humboldt State then. But they used to do a lot of like community work, like dictionary, like helping the community work on dictionary, orthographies. But they no longer exist. And there's still a need for that as at an institution of higher learning. So that could be a possibility as well. And then so where's all this gonna go to, at CR? We have NASP, which is great, and starting Crilly. And I know there's been discussions about putting a wheelhouse on the CR campus. And so, putting all those things together, like, a good place to house all that in a physical location. And, I think it's important, to have a physical space that's dedicated to, a language, and language work. So those are some other possibilities. So that's what I got for you guys. You guys have any questions? I know I just spit a lot of stuff at you.
Yeah, I know that Europe was offered in the past. So is it a matter of not having a faculty member that's qualified, why it's not offered right now?
Yes.
Currently.
Yeah. Yeah, Carol Lou, she used to teach it here at KT site. Yeah, and when she quit teaching here, then it was no longer offered through CR.
She had some family issues that prevented her from continuing.
Okay.
Are you finding that young people are gravitating towards this, have a real interest in learning these languages?
Totally, yeah, I feel like they're like really thirsty for it, and there's not a lot of opportunities either. So, they're like Tallwood is taught at Delmar High, Yurok is taught at Mac High and Eureka High and Del Norte. And you're also not here too, right? Yeah, at Hoopa, and you're at Hoopa High. Hoopa is taught here, but nowhere else, in the high schools. And that's it, right? And there used to be a coded class at Hoopa High, but there isn't anymore. Other than that, it's like, trying to go with like community language classes, those kind of things, and other community organizations. But there isn't a lot of opportunity. Yeah, so, and from my experience, like teaching like at Delaware High, tall language classes, like just local community members are interested too. And most the languages around here are, encouraging everyone to learn the language, so it's, I think there's a lot of interest. And I think it's important too, how do we like integrate those language classes into programs at CR, so it's not just beneficial to learn the language, but it helps you reach your other academic goals as well.
Well, I learned a lot, and I'm sure my colleagues did as well. Thank you for your time, for sitting through this meeting with us.
I got some swag bags for you guys that we handed out.
We love swag.
So we always have swag with Lila and then got some of Curly, so. Then there's a little bag and shirt and a Curly notebook in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So Lila happens every 2 years.
Every 2 years, but it hadn't happened in
Sweet,
person
thank you.
since two thousand
Already
nineteen.
have what?
Yeah, before the pandemic, so lots of people were really excited to get back together. Had been a minute. They had an online Lila in 2021, but yeah.
Oh, this is very, very thoughtful. I love the shirt. I might wear it during this board meeting. We could all wear our shirts.
Very true. Very short, yeah.
We could start dressing alike.
No.
Maybe at a conference. Well, a shirt with cowboy hats. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't usually get gifts from our visitors. That's right.
That's job fire. Pressure's on for other representatives.
Which I think leads us to our Redwood Region Rise presentation. Don't worry if you don't have swag.
We were state funded and we really struggled to get flag, but we'd love to. The feng shui felt good here, so I think I'll.
And Amanda's gonna start it on.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's Suzelle Veda. Amanda Visani, works for the California Center for Rural Policy. We're on the Cal Poly Humboldt campus. And we are the conveners of Redwood Region Rise. I have an amazing team of 3 other full-timers. And it's been a really beautiful partnership with Susan. So Susan, do you want to just introduce yourself?
So Redwood Region Rise is a state initiative that's through the California Jobs First program. And when the state first came in, they asked for a fiscal administrator and a convener. And so I work for North Edge, formerly known as Arcade Economic Development Corporation. And we are the fiscal administrators. And then Amanda does the bulk of the hard work, and then I just make sure all the bills get
It really does not break down that way. But yeah, it was one of these things, so the state, as it does, looked at our state and carved it into 13 regions. And when we were looking at all that we would have to do, we're saying, oh my gosh, we couldn't, we don't have the capacity to do all this. And so this partnership has been just a really a beautiful part of what was quite a challenging first couple of years. But have folks heard of RISE or California Jobs First? That's all know kind of how deep to go. Okay, well, it is, when we started this ride, what we thought we were gonna be doing was called the Community Economic Resilience Fund. I believe it was about a $600 million allocation, passed with the Senate bill, and that was for all 13 regions in the state. The goals, and goalposts, were constantly evolving through the course of the first 2 years of the initiative, which was a planning phase. But we're now kind of settled into what is a very kind of industry sector forward workforce development initiative. And so it's got a lot of other goals. It's about just transition. So as our state looks to become carbon neutral, how can we make sure we're not leaving people behind? How can we be preparing our workers and our communities for that future? So building in that, what we would call a triple bottom line, right? Equity, climate, and also economic prosperity. So in our planning phase, which was the first 2 years that we were together doing this, we had two major goals. One is that we needed to bring together a collaborative, and there were specific rules for doing that. And the two was that we had to kind of unite our collaborative around a shared agenda. And we did do that, and I'll get into a little bit about how that went.
And actually, in our region, Humboldt, Del Norte, Mendocino, and Lake counties, we all know each other. We didn't always work together before this, so it was a very short amount of time to build a really strong collaborative.
Totally, the clock was ticking, and yeah, so we have those 4 counties. Thank you, Susan. And additionally, this is the ancestral lands of what are now 33 different tribal nations, federally and non-federally recognized. And they were absolutely key partners. And since I'm looking at him right behind me, to recognize the leadership of Chairman Davis, who helped us so much in figuring out how to bring folks together and share purpose. These are the folks who came to come forward and be part of this initiative. That we've sat on our collaborative, so they're considered, kind of the oversight board, the way that you are to College of the Redwoods. They're overseeing our economic development efforts and what became this regional roadmap. Additionally, really central to the effort was reaching out to folks who've been marginalized in our economy, who struggle, who have barriers to accessing opportunities to go to school, to get a good, what we call a thriving wage job, right? One where you're not just surviving, but you're thriving. And we sort of named some of those folks, and also identified them using data, which I'll get into on the next slide. So, though I should mention that we are now about 160 have signed our partnership agreement letter across all those jurisdictions and are now part of our collaborative. Using collaboration as a way to get over barriers is a really central part of what we're trying to do together. We recognize, we went out and did a lot of listening sessions, and the number one thing that came up was capacity. Just how we struggle to have the capacity. We know what we want to do and how we want to do it, but there's just never enough people, time, or money, right, to get it done. And so part of our theory of change, right, is that if we work across these 33 tribes and 4 counties, that there's real catalytic potential and partnership to help us overcome those capacity gaps. And what we did was we're effectively creating a big comprehensive economic development strategy. So if you heard of a SEDS, and we were really committed to trying to do it a little bit maybe differently. And so inclusion was a huge part of what we tried to uphold in our planning phase. Reaching out to literally thousands of residents and asking them their thoughts, making sure all materials were translated into Spanish and Hmong, and offering interpretation at our meetings, and really empowering residents and folks who came forward to participate to represent for us in a lot of different rooms. So next slide, please. Oh, there's just a little lag. So each of the 13 regions of the state did have to set up some governance structures, and this took us a while to kind of figure out how we wanted to configure ourselves and what to hold in that. And so I just wanted to point out a couple of things that make our region a little different from the other regions in the state. One is we brought together kind of sometimes referred to as the first of its kind. I don't know if that's true, but a tribal table. And so this is really, it's led by our tribal partners. It's a place where if you're a tribally led nonprofit, a tribal citizen, a person of indigenous identity, or a part of a council government, everyone can sit there and create that sort of shared vision and strategy. And what's really been uplifted in that space is the need for more work engaging our youth. And I think they've hired a consultant now to take a look at starting some tribal youth councils potentially through this effort. We did also create an equity council to help make sure that when we're making decisions together, that we are reaching those groups that are more, have been unfortunately left behind or pushed to the margins of traditional economic development. And Susan's baby, the Economic Development Finance Working Group. Do you want to say a couple words about that?
So one of the ways in which we lack capacity is finance, getting money into our region and just even understanding how to get it. So the vision is that we get people in the room who have all kinds of different finance experience. Maybe they've done infrastructure financing or philanthropy or capital stacking. And then so when they look at a project, they have all of those minds together that they can say, this is a way.
toward Loop Road, then turn right.
This is the way we can move forward for economic development. And so we've been doing a lot of expert sessions and teaching people, if you're gonna work with this kind of funding, here are some things.
And so I did want to just point that out because there are a lot of places to plug in and get involved. We have about 40 voting members. Any given day on our tribal table, between 20, I think, of folks participating there. But I do want to spend some time talking about our strategic sectors, because I think this is a place where our partnership with, CR and Mendocino College just be so essential, and a place where we'd like to deepen our collaboration. So, as moving forward, I think we'll maybe skip through some of these kind of quickly in the interest of time. I do want to say a word about our regional roadmap. This is, lives on our website. There's a short link to it there. If you're ever looking for data on our industries, on our workforce and our labor market characteristics, public health, a little bit about our economy at large. We did do very comprehensive data work. Climate and environment as well. A lot of spatial analyses and different, looking at different kind of characteristics. So that provides kind of like a baseline of where we are at now as a region in terms of how our communities are doing, how our economy is doing. But it's part 2 where it gets exciting, because that's where we had to bring together a lot of folks to decide, what is important, who are we as a region, and where are we going in terms of that economic development. And we've really coalesced around 4 key sectors. And those are arts, culture, and tourism, health and caregiving, renewable resilient energy, and working lands and blue economy. Each one has an advisory table of sector experts and other folks involved, created a bunch of strategies. Those are also available on our website. And all our work now moving forward into implementation is centered around these sectors with bias that we really have the most kind of comparative advantage and strength, and are also aligned with who we see ourselves in this more sustainable and equitable future. Next slide, please. So now it gets juicy. Now we're going into implementation, which fortunately did have some real resources that came with it that we've been able to invest into projects through our collaborative that were elevated through the collaborative. Sorry, just a little delay for getting into there. So here's what we're doing. We've got some funding to continue to strengthen regional collaboration and build that capacity through partnerships, connecting people across the region, providing TA training support, advancing projects. So like I said, we did have some resources that we're able to access through the California Jobs First funding, but we're also have now people that we've been brought on. They're called sector investment coordinators, and their whole job is to help people identify funding opportunities, get together, design that collaborative project, get over that hump that often happens before submitting a grant proposal or an investment pitch, and kind of reach up for those dollars effectively. And then another thing we're looking at, Susan has really been amazing at mentoring this and continuing to keep this centered, which is serving as a voice of advocacy for our region when we have those opportunities in Sacramento. As arise, sometimes we work a lot with GoBiz, the Labor and Workforce Development Agency, and EDD Economic.
Those are our official ones, and then California Forward and
Yes.
California Stewardship Network as well.
So it allows us to do a lot of kind of networking with other folks who do this kind of work across the state and advocate for our needs in those spaces and attract investment. I think this is the theory of change. Let's get over this one. Okay, so heading into our 4 strategic sectors, and I get to talk a little bit about our projects, which I'm really excited about. Like I mentioned, there they are, and that our sector investment coordinators are now working also with the state and with others to identify those opportunities, entities in our region reach for them. Next slide, please. So one of the exciting things we did get to do is we had a bit of a re-granting process. We had $9 million that the state gave us, and said, you need to put this into pre-development. So projects that might be more at a conceptual phase or still doing something like a feasibility study, you know, anything that you would consider more in that pre-planning phase. So they told our collaborative to go out and find, you know, ones that were aligned. We ended up granting to 10 initiatives, and those 10 initiatives kind of coalesced around 5 themes. You can see they're aligned with our sectors, but they may be a little bit more specific. So one, we had a node of food systems strengthening projects, a node around climate forward workforce and industries, looking at things like biomass conversion and other things that might help make our forestry industry more sustainable. A tribal energy sovereignty node, a few of our tribal partners working with a group called Grid Alternatives, so looking at building a solar installation workforce that's centered on tribal lands. Growing our healthcare workforce, we have one healthcare project hoping to get more funded, but one, it's called the Heart Hub, that's in Lake County, and they have like a simulator for training students and a few other interesting things going. Also, they're working a lot with their students, so creating early pathways into those careers. And then a few in arts and culture, and I'll just kind of show some of the grantees, because I think they give a good flavor of what we're talking about when we say that we're investing in these sectors. Next slide. So under strengthening food systems, we have a great project with the North Coast Food System Network. That's headed up by the North Coast Growers Association. So they're taking on challenges like our lack of meat processing. You may have heard that we lost our last USDA facility. We've got farmers driving to Wairika to get their livestock processed. They're working on things like cold storage, which has been a problem for our local food system for a while. The Hmong meat processing facility is a project out of Crescent City, and they actually, I think, completed feasibility and are looking at site plans to build it will be basically a social enterprise that's run by the Hmong Cultural Association in Del Norte to do that meat processing. And a really cool project called Redwood Corridor Seeds that's led by North Coast Opportunities, and also a wonderful organization called Women with Bows that's looking at traditional indigenous foods and processing them to use as emergency supply and do another value added around traditional foods, and they're looking up and down the 101 corridor. So these are things that, yeah, improving value chain and building up entrepreneurs, which I know touches the work and the education that folks get at CR. So to chat about that. Next one, climate forward workforce and industries. We've got a few, you might know Mad River Mass Timber, that's the Schmidbauer Group, CalForest WRX Alliance, I think formerly US Forest Service, but they're working also with Cal Poly Humboldt, and both those projects are really focused on what do we do with all that scrubby biomass that just creates fire risk. What could we maybe be creating new materials out of it, new ways of pulling it out of our forest, making our forest healthier and aggregating that product and creating jobs. As well, the Rural Resilience Partnership, that's Trees Foundation out of Southern Humboldt. And they're looking at, things like cultural burning, controlled burning, and landscape restoration. How do we train and certificate people to do a variety of that kind of work to create year-round employment? Because we have a seasonal employment problem, right, in that sector. And then one of my personal favorites, Fireline and Fiber Bioregions. I like to hit people with this one. Our region is actually one of the greatest producers of wool around on the West Coast, I think is what I was told, but we have not a single wool scour facility. So we're actually taking all that wool right now and sending it to North Carolina. And yet, the largest textile manufacturing hub in the United States is in LA. So we've got a little value chain problem, so that, that project is looking to untie that knot. And I've got just a couple more, so move through these quickly so we can have questions. The tribal energy sovereignty, like I said, training folks, for solar careers, in Pinoleville. And then, I love that this came up, we were able to fund, building lives by building structure, tiny home, training here in Hoopa. And they're also really working with Grid Alternatives to integrate the solar, into what Mr. Richards is doing over there, so it's a great project. Of relevance to our endangered languages, Middletown Rancheria Community Rise Project has a cultural education component. Really, language classes are, Pomo language classes are incorporated there, but love to find out more now that I've heard about some of the work you're doing. And then I think there's a couple more quick ones. The Growing Health, the Heart Hub in Lake County, is fantastic. They've got the simulator there, so training folks to go into more allied health and health careers. And the last, but certainly not least, is our arts, and culture for growth and resilience. We were able to fund the Del Norte Performing Arts and Civic Center. That's the feasibility study, and that's considered multi-use space. So looking at how arts spaces can also be places for like disaster, community hubs during times of disaster. Carvina Legacies, Blue Lake Rancheria. So they're once again looking at that biomass, that, the products that you could make, but looking at like woodworking and more artisanal, products. And there's the Middletown Rancheria Rise Project. So that was what we did with 9 million. I have to say our region's been really successful actually in some of the competitive rounds of funding, which has been really very validating, I guess, for us after a lot of work in 2 years. The next slide, hopefully I put this on here. We were able to secure $1 million from the Tribal Investment Initiative, which was a affiliated funding that came from the California Jobs First project, and that did go to Red Hills Bioenergy, led by the Scotts Valley Dam, Homo Indians, so that's the county way. The state also released a pilot project that came out, I think, 2 years ago, and Noyo Harbor received $3 million to get a new ice house and redevelop their port there. And this was just announced, don't quote me on this number, it's an estimate, I can't remember what the final budget was for this. But we were one of 7 regions to receive implementation funds out of the 13 for an ag tech collaboration that we're doing with UC-ANR, and that's looking at things like virtual fencing, helping provide support for ag tech entrepreneurs through our SBDC center, and we'll be working closely with Chico State Enterprises for that. So with that, to close us out, I'd love to hand it to you, Suzanne, to talk a little bit about where all this goes next. Yeah.
So first, I just want to mention that this $9 million that we got was part of a $14 million grant. There's all the work that goes behind it, and then it's getting the money out. That didn't exist when SURF first started, when they proposed SURF as SURF. It came out really as a way to address what they recognized as needs of rural communities. So when it was announced that every region, whether you were Los Angeles or Humboldt County, was going to get $14 million, it was not universally embraced. But for all of the things we can complain about that the state did, that was one time when they really did say, we recognize that we need help with pre-development. And sort of building up that capacity so that we can get work done. And so we will be continuing to move forward. We're hoping to see all of these projects progress, and we will continue to watch them. They're going to need to get additional funding. So we're hoping that not only by getting this money, we're training them how to handle a state grant with somebody that's a little bit more easygoing. North Edge tries to make it as easy as them, and then we report to the state. But giving them the skills that they're going to need to build. I do believe Building Lives by Building Structure, brand new program. They didn't have anything before this grant. SWRX, first grant, they're building from scratch. So we really are starting some awesome things. as we move forward, we want to, one, keep this collaborative thing because we do believe that it's not just the state money that we can access with these really strong collaboratives, but, one day, maybe we'll be able to access federal money again when they decide to get money. Philanthropy, everybody just likes it better when you have a stronger collaborative. And so we're gonna continue to work on that, strengthen our collaborative as well. We're so happy that Dr. Flavor has committed, as has, Dr. Spavin at Cal Poly, as we're moving forward to make sure that we have the voices of, you know, what the university and the colleges are looking at for education, as well as other economic development professionals, and also continuing to keep our tribal table and our equity voices involved as we move forward. So while we don't have a fully committed, when the governor leaves, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen next time, but there are active, there's active work being done at the state level to try to keep this kind of project hopefully funded at least administratively into the future so that we can continue to reach out for funding capacity and helping to support other capacities. So I guess that was there anything I left out? Any questions?
Thank you. I have just a itty bitty peek of what you all were doing when I was working at Humboldt, and what you've done just, it's amazing.
We didn't bring the regional roadmap. If you look at, I mean, it's how many pages, 186 between the two parts? Like 400, but like 400.
Yeah.
So you guys want to
Look at the data that you have all generated, that sounds really, well, everything sounds interesting, but I want to dig into that. You had something?
What can CR do to support you? Cause I can see where what your work is would really match up and coalesce with what CR's vision is. So what can you do?
I think, you know, keeping the lines of communication, having representation at the table so that we make sure that as we're building up any industries, we're looking at the workforce, that the university and the colleges are continuing to work on. I think workforce is the obvious answer.
That's perfect, and we just, we had one last little bit of technical assistance funding in our grant that wasn't spent, and we contracted with a group that is like a workforce development. Because we realized a lot of our sectors, we don't have those career maps, you know, that lead to, you know, all the roads that might lead to CR and then on to Cal Poly and maybe to Davis for certain things. And so they're gonna be trying to do a very comprehensive mapping, looking at what the demand is gonna be. We'd love to have you all as thought partners in that, make sure we're getting it right, and, yeah, but it's a valid.
Perfect. We'll do it.
Anyone else? Thank you for being here today. And I appreciate, I know it's sort of getting toward the end of the meeting, so appreciate you sitting there all that time.
Well, we learned some cool stuff too.
Yeah, well, we always have to stuff at our board meetings.
I agree.
Keep them.
It's been a long afternoon.
So, thank you. Okey dokey. And I'm gonna have to find one. There it is.
Can I just say, excuse me?
Of
I
course.
just want to thank Susan Stevens, all that you have done for economic development in this county, starting with Lemonade Day, or maybe you did
Oh my
something
gosh,
before
that's
that.
I missed
My granddaughter is so blossom, has a high school student now. Economically, I mean, her little entrepreneurship stuff that she's doing, all started with your Lemonade Day.
That is so
In McKinleyville.
I remember when that Decade of Difference entrepreneurship folks said they can always tell the Lemonade Day kids when they came in.
Yeah.
They said they were more arrogant, but they all.
There's so much for our county economically, I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're moving to recognitions. And for that, I am turning to President Flamer.
I don't have anything else to add to that particular report unless there are specific questions.
Yeah,
I enjoy doing this.
and I enjoy reading it. I found the letter from Ms. Urban, or Dr. Urban, most interesting.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
The insurance one?
Yes.
Yeah, that, it's close to home. It's a
Yeah,
good
and
point.
it's close to home for lots of folks in the area, so.
But also, I guess I do have something to say.
Go ahead.
Very quick, I do want to recognize the 19th Amendment as we talk about the Constitution and the
Mhm.
attack on it. I just want to call attention to this particular one as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that, and thank you for including it.
Absolutely.
We have to pay attention. History is important. Okay, and 6.6, the recognition of new employees and employee service award is, we have a report. Is there anything you'd like to add? President Flamer?
Okay, nothing to add to that one.
Okay. But I appreciate you pulling it all together, though. This is good work folks are doing. And that takes us to organizational reports. Do we have, President Bernadette Johnson of the
Sitting right
Academic? You know, I've been sitting here. I know, you're just out of context, you know, you don't belong.
Usually you're sitting right over there.
First, I thought you were the biology professor, and then I'm so sorry.
She wears a lot of hats.
Yeah,
And you. Right.
I don't really have much to add. I do want to just verbally acknowledge, our faculty of the year, John Pace, and our associate faculty of the year, Shannon Longworth. Other than that, given the time, I'll just leave it there, unless you have questions. I'll take any questions.
Well, thank you for being here.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I always enjoy coming up, to Klamath Trinity, and I always learn lots, so I hope you did as well. Yeah, that was time well spent. President Johnson, I'll get it right. It's, the context is all wrong. Okay, here we go. How about CRFO? Are they around?
Yes.
Hey, there you are. President Michelle Haggerty.
Hello. I don't have anything to add to the report. I'll just briefly say that we're close to ratifying the contract, so we should have it for you guys at the October meeting.
That's very good to hear. Very good news. And we look forward to the new school year as well, and working with you and CRFO. So always appreciate your report. Thank you for the time to write it.
Yes.
Let's see, classified staff, do we have anything from them?
She's not on there. Oh, she's gone?
Yeah.
She was.
Sure. Management Council, we have a report. Written report. Oh, there
Yes.
you are.
I'm here.
Thank you for hanging in with us.
Sure, I'm happy to be here. There's nothing to add to the report, but I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
You know, when I was looking at it, first of all, I was having trouble reading this only because I couldn't expand it. But I was particularly interested in what people were not interested in.
Me too. I think maybe the reason it was the folks weren't as interested in social activities is because we have the annual CSEA barbecue already, and that provides a social interaction opportunity. So I think that because they felt like we were already doing that, maybe we didn't need to focus on it this year. But that we can definitely be we want to bring up in discussion again at our next meeting to go into a little bit more detail about the responses and see if we can dig in a little deeper in discussion.
No, I found that really interesting. So it was a good thing to include in your survey, so thank you. Anything else on that? Our student trustee, did she hang out with us?
She had to go to class.
Well, I was thinking she probably was pretty busy this first week of school. And that takes us to administrative reports. Dr. Flamer.
Thank you very quickly. Well, I'll try my best to be succinct and as you're going to my left. The first thing is do want to recognize the faculty that the board approved today. And I'll talk a little bit about those things. If you see that Amanda Cutler, Kristen Luke, Andrew Manning, and Billy Scott, these are positions that we approved, or I approved and then hired and then you did approve, of faculty that we want to hire in January 2026. And the reason why we pushed so hard to get them hired now is to make sure that we lay the foundation for further FTS growth. As we heard today, that the state is somewhat precarious, uncertain moving forward. We want to make sure that we lay the groundwork, especially in career education, following our conversation about Vision 2030. They want us to focus on career education workforce development. These faculty members are going to do that. And the other two that we hired today, one of my goals that the board approved is to move as many faculty off soft grant money as possible. These two faculty members, both in Dillon North as well as Eureka and Forestry and Business, they were 50% strong workforce and 50% general fund. So by approving them, you're helping me achieve this goal. But also the fact is that these two positions are key for FTS growth, not only in Dillon North, but also in forestry. You know that we have an accreditation in forestry, we need 2 faculty members. So adding forestry to the cadre of faculty is important to maintain accreditation. But also business faculty member and also teach in the bio area in botany. And so we try our best to look at faculty who can be, I should say, cross-listed, but that can teach in other disciplines as well. I also want to very quickly add to what Kyle was talking about writing. And I want to reinforce about why the college is doing it. It's not based on transaction about making sure that we offer 5, 6, or 7 languages. It goes significantly deeper. The reason why we're doing it is to maintain and support culture. Is America does its best, it tries its best to eradicate languages and then controlling people. We want to try our best SCR to revitalize language and culture. Do what we can to make sure that the culture survives. As Bible says, the elders are dying off, therefore the languages is dying. We want to do our best to make sure that the language survives, culture survives, and CR is a partner with all our tribal partners to make sure that we do our best to make sure culture is survivable in this country. So thank you, Wiley. You nailed it. Good job. Any questions for me?
If I could just add, Lila even came up at the foundation board meeting I attended a couple of weeks ago. And that was because of the $25,000 grant that you all received from the Native Cultures Group.
Native Cultures Fund.
Yeah, so I was, and I really didn't know much about it at the foundation board meeting. We just acknowledged the grant through the foundation. So I was really pleased to see that you were on the agenda today, and again, thank you for your presentation.
Yes, please. There's also other benefits from learning the language, because there's a worldview that you begin to understand that it's really enriching. And not only that, but the ability to improve your literacy skills for any language. There's a lot of academic skills that can be picked up through learning another language.
Yes.
But for me, because I've taken some Hoopa language classes here in Hoopa, it's that worldview and that way of looking at the world and the way of processing information that is really empowering. So I'm really glad that the district is offering the languages.
Yeah. Thank you. That moves us to Vice President of Administrative Services, Ms. Julia Morrison, not Anderson.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank the board for approving the personnel actions, specifically for Catherine Canepa. I think that's how I pronounce her last name. She is our new budget accounting analyst, and she'll be starting tomorrow. So we're really looking forward to working with her, getting her trained up to fill that position.
I noticed that one on the line of result, but I particularly noticed that one because I'm sure that you could use the additional help.
Yes, yeah, so, and that was all I have.
Dr. Morse, are you still with us? There
I'm
you
with you. Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd just like to thank the board for approval of the CCAP agreements. This is a critical next step in furthering partnership and scheduling dual enrollment courses appropriately for the fall and into the spring. This is the first batch of several that you will see. So please, I look forward to your continued review of those and hopeful future approval. Other than that, I've submitted a written report. Are there any questions that I can entertain?
We're good, and thank you so much for your report. It's always helpful to have that in advance. Thank you. Moving to our foundation, Mr. Coelho.
I don't see him
He's
on.
not on there.
Okay, but he did provide a written report and. What would say about that? Unless trustee Turner would like me to talk more about it.
Yeah, please do. 13 minutes, you got it.
That moves us to agenda item 9.1 to approve it, if there is a request for an item on a future agenda item. I think we got it all today. We're good. Okay. Well, I do want to again thank the Climate Community Campus and Ms. B and all of her staff for making us feel so welcome and keeping us. I thank you all for driving over here and safe travels home. The meeting is adjourned.